Hello and welcome to the Mychal Thompson episode of the Hoop Theory Podcast, aka episode 78, which is in honor of him being the first overall pick in the 1978 NBA draft. My name is Logan Wertman, recording this one on the evening of Thursday, April 4th, and as usual, I am joined by my mysterious co-host, Jacob Roth. Jacob, how does it feel to be on the Mychal Thompson episode?
Pretty good. For anybody wondering, I don't know how we sometimes I'm like in the discussion to find the people, like if it's like a close one or if there's like a weird one. First overall pick in that year's draft, I like that. I like that little pivot that we're doing. That was good. I don't know if we've done that before. I don't remember that being a person. It might have been. Has it already?
I don't think we've done Mychal Thompson, but we've done that method.
That way to find a person.
Yeah,
okay.
We've done that once, and another time we did who we thought was the best player from the draft.
Of that year.
Yeah, it was Bill Walton for the number one overall pick, and then it was Alex English for being the best from the draft. And with Bill Walton, he was the best player from the draft and number one. This one was not the same case, but the person who was the best player in that draft has already had his own episode, and that is Larry Bird.
I almost put on the Bird jersey today. I'm rocking the Al Horford CD edition from last year.
Nice.
But I almost rocked I almost put on the Bird. I thought about it because in honor of Indiana State playing in the NIT championships tonight and looking like they're going to win it.
Who are they facing?
They're up Seton Hall. They're up 77-72 at the Momento.
Wow.
So yeah, we're recording this. I think you already said it in the intro. Like on the 4th of April at night in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, precisely.
I wish you'd bring that back.
In the year of our Lord.
In the year of our Lord,
Yeah.
and then whatever year it is.
I think we just did that on the first episode of this year. We might have done that before. I think you say that a lot.
Because I'm trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the world outside of like Nazi Germany was a better place when people did that.
Said the year of our Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't know when people actually said that.
I have no idea.
I feel like the 40s, in the year of our Lord, 1948.
Okay.
49 or 52. 77.
All the above.
I don't know. All of the above.
But yeah, I guess getting back to this year, 2024, down this stretch of the NBA season, we're in April, like we said, we're about to the end now. So this episode,
it's crazy, insanity.
We'll be talking about the season awards, and I guess that's a good place to start. The post versus regular season. This is a conversation we've had on the podcast before. I don't know if you remember it all because we had a revisit of this conversation shortly before recording.
Yeah. And I know this. So your argument is they should be regular season awards because that's what they are.
Yeah.
But everybody calls them postseason awards.
I don't know if I would say everybody, but a lot of people do.
Because of when they come after the season is why they... But then there's that whole thing called the postseason, and the NBA has several postseason awards as opposed to like a lot of them where it's literally just like MVP of the championship game.
Yeah. For me, it's like, okay, so it's the regular season, and people call it the postseason awards because the awards are awarded after the season is over. But isn't that just a given? Like, isn't that the time you would award people for the season that they played?
You are correct, but this is just what they're called.
Yeah.
By
I don't know
80% of people? Outside of basketball, it's 100%.
Okay, maybe.
Because I'm trying to think if there's any like playoff awards that are like big, well recognized in like football or hockey or anything. And I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that they have hockey. You have like two like cups. Stanley Cup's the big one, obviously.
There's two cups in hockey.
Or maybe I'm mixing it up with like USHL, like.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about NHL.
I am definitely mixing it up with USHL. Anyway, but like it's just Super Bowl MVP. There's not like another like defensive player of the playoffs. That's not like
a thing. Yeah. But the NBA has conference finals MVPs for both sides.
Yeah. And that's not as big of a like they have MVPs of the games. And maybe because there's not series that like they get kind of washed out more, just who is like the MVP of that game.
Oh, the NFL does do that for conference
in an
championships?
unofficial sense. Just games in general. Like player of the game type of thing. I don't know if the NFL does it officially.
Is that like the broadcast network that's doing the game probably just does that?
I think so. Just like he's an unofficial who's like the guy.
Yeah. So it's just like ESPN or whatever channel it's on is whoever's covering the game does it.
But yeah, I don't think it's like an official capacity. I think it's just kind of like, it's not even like a graphic. It just gets, who's the guy that gets talked about the most.
Oh, so it's not even, okay, so it's nothing at all. It's just.
No, it's Big Ol' Nothing Burger because there's Big Ol' Nothing.
Yeah. But there's not an actual award for the
But for the conference championship, they have like certain people get to hold the like 2 trophies for the AFC and the NFC. Like they have like a little podium thing for that.
Yeah. But the NBA recently added within the last 3 or 4 years, added the conference championship MVP trophies named after Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, which I think is very fitting. And so we're going to use those terms, all of those names here today. Like we have the past 2 years now. We've done a pretty good job.
That's the other thing we're trying to start. Yeah. The year of our Lord, and people starting to call like the MVP the Jordan. The Jordan. Who's going to win the Jordan this year?
Yeah, exactly. That would be cool if we could get to that place. But before we get to all that stuff, there's a couple other things I want to touch on. The first thing is like the most major thing that's happened in basketball as a whole, or in NBA really, but in the NBA sense, we have kind of had this sort of spotty hiatus of not recording as much as normal the past couple months. But in that time span, games have started going from like they were at like an all-time high basically for the pace and the scoring outside of like the 60s. But, since then, it just kept ballooning up and up. Several people had scored 70 points in a game this year. All the discourse around the people, casual fans of the league or just, people in society as a whole are all like, the NBA is soft now. They don't play defense, all that kind of stuff. It started to hurt the NBA as a product. And this season is much worse for that to happen than most because the NBA is in the middle of a media deal. This is the last year on their current contract for the TV deal. And from the sounds of it, this is from some intel that I heard on the Bill Simmons podcast. And this is the type of stuff that I feel like he's the best source for, is like the business side of things. He hears a lot about that kind of stuff because he's a rich person and has a lot of connections.
And is like invested in some of it and like doesn't super love ESPN. So if ESPN's like doing something good or bad, they're like, who would love to hear this? The guy that hates ESPN with all of his soul.
Yeah. And so apparently the NBA is getting very, I guess, flirtatious with a lot of the streaming platforms like Amazon and stuff like that. And that's going to be a really big part of this media deal. And so they're trying to, get the value of the league up to a level that's a much more enticing product for somebody to want to display on their platforms, So the rumor that was spread from Bill Simmons' podcast was that Adam Silver around the All-Star break, because like the All-Star break is like the NBA's prime time premiere event of the regular season. And so around that time, he was talking with people from either Amazon or like HBO, I think is also there, because they just added live TV and live sports. That's very recent. HBO has that now.
Max
does, yeah.
I think it's when they pivoted away from HBO Max to just Max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and now there's talks of having basically all NBA games on a streaming platform.
Hey, and maybe this would suck, but that could mean the death of blackouts.
Yeah, honestly, that would be nice. If we could just have every NBA game, you pay one subscription and it's there.
Or we all collectively agree to stop giving Bally money or altitude money. And then they go out of business. That's the only 2 ways I think it happens.
Yeah. That would be hard, I feel like, for the Nuggets to get there because the Cronkies are very stubborn people and they own altitude. So I'm sure that he would, hold on to that till the bitter end. Because, that's still the current situation with the Nuggets. People in Denver, for the most part, cannot watch the Nuggets unless they have Fubo TV or I think DirecTV now. This season is the first year DirecTV has altitude back, but on Dish and most of all Comcast, which is like, in a lot of major cities in the US, I don't know if it's like this in other countries, but a lot of major cities in the US, there's like certain broadcasting, I don't know what you call those, like providers, like TV providers. internet providers that hold a monopoly over like an urban area. In Omaha, it's Cox is like the big ISP, but in Denver, apparently, for both internet and TV, it's Comcast. And so that's the big disagreement that happened, which, like, I've heard a lot of people say that Kroenke and Altitude are the bad guys in this situation. I kind of disagree with that. I think they are stubborn, and that's, you could fault them for that, I guess. But I think Comcast is the evil ones here, because the offer that they're giving Altitude and the Kroenke family for the media deal to show Nuggets games on Comcast, like, they're valuing the Denver Nuggets as a product at what the numbers they were doing back on the last time they were on Comcast, which was like the all-time lowest Nuggets, iteration. It was like Jokic's rookie year, basically. So it's like, realistically, those are not the type of numbers that the Nuggets would be pulling in, not the type of viewership that the Nuggets would be drawing. And so that's just not a fair, it's not fair compensation. And so there's become this holdout thing that's been going on. And I, like, living out here, am still affected by that, because we technically, for some reason, Omaha counts as part of the Altitude Sports region. So Which is weird, because it doesn't for baseball. Really?
Yeah, no. For baseball, it ends at North Platte.
But, like, so what does that mean? Like, the channel? Like, Altitude
For the
Sports?
blackouts type of stuff.
So, like, if you...
It's...
The NBA
for the Rockies
or MLB's version, because I don't know if the Rockies are on Altitude. Pretty sure
they're not Altitude. They're on
they're not?
MLB is the one that's streaming.
Okay, so that's a different channel.
Very confusing.
That makes sense then, because I was gonna say Altitude. How would the blackouts for Altitude be different for different sports? But yeah, the channel,
like different markets. Like basketball would have like the OKC market to think about. And then
but I think it's like the channel like where the channel is available to people.
Okay.
Now
I'm tracking.
To buy a TV package with that channel included, that whole region is like, it's like Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Kansas, Nebraska, and I think South Dakota.
They just do the whole state.
For the most part, I think. I've looked at a map of this before. It's not exactly by the state. A lot of them are the whole state, but Nebraska's like basically all of it, except for like up very north, like where it becomes like kind of Iowa and South Dakota.
Sioux Falls area. Or that's the South Dakota part, but it'd be Sioux City, Iowa. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, South Sioux City, Nebraska.
Well, Sioux Falls is like another couple hours north of Sioux City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a ways away, yeah.
Yeah. Up there where like Vermilion is a town right on the border of South Dakota. Yankton, yeah. But
well, this is a wild rabbit hole.
Yeah, getting back to what we're talking about, like, so like the shift in the NBA as a product, I feel like that was made. Adam Silver was very upset at the All-Star game, how it was 214 to 186 or whatever the score was.
Play that clip. I'll find it again if you want me to. Like, he was just defeated as a human.
Yeah.
Like, well, you scored the most points.
Here's your trophy. Yeah. So, he was very upset about that. And I think that something that could have happened was, and I think probably did happen, the NBA kind of met together in secrecy and was like, we're going to coordinate the refs. We're going to instruct all the refs of the NBA to start calling games much more strictly, or like not loose, because a loose whistle I feel like is blown more often. But the opposite of a loose whistle, No,
I think.
Or would you say that would be the other way around?
No, it is confusing, because like I think a loose whistle, when you say that, would be like, don't blow it as often, because you want the rules to be loose.
Yeah, the rules are loose, but the whistle is it's kind of the opposite.
It's like tight, but it's weird. That is a weird way to look at it. But games go way faster now.
Yeah.
Like, after the All-Star break, like, they've made not only the decision to, like, call less fouls, but I think it's to, like, call less, like, specific players get away with more.
Specific players?
Like, I have an example that I can think of. Like, when the Celtics played the Suns, it just turned into slap KD as hard as you can on defense and wait till they call a foul, and they just didn't. Like, he was getting mauled by the Celtics. And the people doing the mauling, it wasn't like Peyton Pritchard. It was Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. like two people that like have that the
star treatment.
A star level, yeah, that level that they like acknowledge that people probably came to this game to see them.
Yeah.
And so they were like slapping. It was weird. It felt weird. And I didn't notice it like in the game, but I went back and watched it again after Bill Simmons talked about it. I'm like, yeah, that was very true. It was like patty cake. It was bad.
Yeah.
And like it seems like that's kind of part of it is because they were calling everybody evenly and then they stopped doing that.
Okay, I haven't even heard this take on it, that it's like preferential treatment to different types of players.
Yeah. I just know the game goes faster, without a doubt.
Yeah, I just think that they're calling less fouls in general for the most part. It's called more like playoff basketball because the rule, like the whistle has always changed the past like decade now from regular season to playoffs. Like once
you get to mid-April,
there's like
totally different.
Yeah, once we're in the playoffs, it's like there's plays that if they were happening in the regular season, like the whistle would blow, but in the playoffs it just doesn't. The game
That's also always confused me. Why then, like the Bucks got worse? Because I feel like the Bucks have always played that type of basketball well, offensively and defensively. But then until they had that championship run, like they always were a better regular season team. But I felt like the guys they had were just like able to play that tougher style of basketball that comes in the playoffs. That's a whole nother discussion that we could talk about, like on a different day.
Yeah,
but
I think there's other reasons for why the Bucks got worse in the playoffs. But I never really thought about that before. That you would think that they could handle some physicality, just with like some of their best players being some pretty.
Look, because all of them are able to kind of deal with like the bumps and the lumps.
Yeah.
Because they've always had like one rotating 3-point shooter guy that kind of moves around to different people on who it is. But outside of that, like Giannis can get his offense if he's getting just hacked.
Yeah.
It just
for sure.
Okay, I do want to interject this really quick. I'm watching the 3-point shooting contest. Jack Golke just hit a half-court shot first try. Because they were doing like that team relay thing where you like hit a layup and then you keep going back. Jack Golke just pulled up from the half-court line and sank it.
As part of the contest? Try.
This is like the different... They did like teams.
Oh, they're doing like different events.
Yeah, they're like doing it as like a whole orchestrated thing.
That's
I literally just like looked over and Jack Golke just pulls up from half-court and just nails it. That's insanity.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
That can get cut out. That just blew my mind. Sorry.
No,
I'm just waiting for Casey. That's the only reason I'm watching.
Yeah. I'll definitely check out the highlights of that afterwards. It seems interesting. I didn't know that they were doing more than just like a normal.
Oh, I feel sorry. It wasn't even Golke. I just disrespected this man.
Who is he? Do you know?
I don't know. A Gilmore? What school? Patriots.
I have no idea. Patriots?
Is that St. Yeah, I don't know.
I
kind of looks like a high school jersey, to be completely honest.
The Parkview Patriots, Parkview Christian.
Oh, wow.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
I was going to go Millard South, but that works too.
Yeah, that's true. That's very near me, Millard South. But Parkview Christian is where I went to preschool and kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fun fact for those out there.
You could cut that out, probably.
I don't care. But anyway, so back to the NBA, the rules shift. So it's like the calls are just being, they're not being called as often. The physicality has risen a lot. The scores, like things are going down a lot, like a lot less points being scored. And for those out there who think this, who, if you've not been paying attention at all and you think that this sounds kind of like just a conspiracy theory, it is almost 100% definitely not, because there's
everyone that watches basketball, like for their job, has been like, this seems kind of weird.
All independent of each other for the most part.
Yes, and I don't know who the first person to bring it up was, but everybody saw that and then like retroactively was like, wait.
Yeah.
There's a hard line. Games are shorter, less whistles are being blown, less stars are getting kicked out. This is wild.
Yeah, and Tom Haverstraw and Ethan Sherwood Strauss from The Athletic, those guys, well, I don't know where Tom Haverstraw works. Is he ESPN?
I think he just does his own. I thought he does his own like
thing.
Paywall thing.
Yeah. He might. Yeah. Anyways, those two guys are two NBA writers that have been on this very early, and they've collected and shown a lot of different statistical anomalies that is like there's no way that this is all just happenstance, you know. And the NBA had an interview. I think Zach Lowe, I want to say, somebody had Joe Dumars, who's the vice president. He's basically Adam Silver's right hand man, I think, basically. But he had him on to represent the NBA and talked about this. And he said that the NBA was not doing anything. There were no discussions of altering anything. So he basically just denied everything. But like the thing is, everybody, almost everybody, like literally almost 100% of everybody enjoys this change. It's made the NBA a better product. It's more fun to watch. There's less stoppages. There's less free throws. It's just more fun to watch. Defense is more like allowed. You know, offensive players just don't get the whistle blown for anything and everything. And it's nice. But the NBA, it's just, I heard Verno from The Mismatch point this out. That's like, I don't know if anybody has ever had something so like beloved, like something that's like everybody would be congratulating you or like thanking you so much for. And you just deny it, that it wasn't you, even though it definitely was. But you're like denying that you did it.
It's like buying somebody like a car and then be like, that wasn't me.
Yeah. Which
so
it's just weird.
Definitely didn't do that.
I don't know. There must be some sort of legalistic or, you know, type of reason for, I'm sure that it would not be a great look for the players. Like I feel like that would cause some tension in some relationships with like the players and management with the NBA. If like they were just like, you didn't even talk to us about this, but you just changed this, you know, on us. So that part kind of makes sense, but
that would put more wear and tear on players' bodies.
Yeah.
And then another point that I'm sure we'll talk about due to a certain somebody not being in the NBA anymore. There's also another component to if the NBA did make this announcement and didn't tell like gambling bookmakers. So coming out of the All-Star break, all these lines were high, and then the unders hitting on all of them.
Yeah, see, I heard somebody
that'd
make
be a
that
lot
point
of money that gambling would lose.
I heard somebody make that point too, but I feel like this was more dangerous for people to catch on to it, like because Tom Haverstraw and Ethan Sherwood Strauss were both on it very early, and for you to coordinate something like this, there has to be some individuals out there who know, you know, but the gambling books and the general public does not know. So this is a much more dangerous situation for that to happen, because if they were to do it, just announce it, the lines would all change. Yeah, like that's just there's no way. Like the gambling books are not going to just not be paying attention, and
yeah,
you know, like they're definitely going to catch on to something like that. Like if it's like announced to the public and it's like this known thing, but since it wasn't, but it still was coordinated enough to the degree that there has to be handfuls of people out there who know. And therefore would have this, they're like, I have this like $1 million potentially level of information at my fingertips. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That seems like that would be a lot more dangerous. Cause like, even if you weren't in on it at first, if you just sat through a week, like some of these writers did, and saw how drastic some of these numbers were, like I think it's since the All-Star break. I don't know if this is still true today, but this was true very recently. Since the All-Star break, the under on points, total points for each game, has hit over 77% of the time. Over 77% of the games since the All-Star break, the under has hit on points.
That's nuts.
Like if you knew, like, you would be able to make a lot of money just betting on the under for every game, putting a little bit of money on each game every night, you know, like you would get a lot of money just doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's why I think that can't be part of it. Like for the reason not to announce it, because that, I feel like if anything, this is a much more dangerous situation for something like that to happen if they didn't announce it. But
yeah.
That's just me, though. I haven't heard anybody say that. That's just what comes to mind to me.
But that makes sense, like, a little bit, that, like, if you did announce it, then you would be able to avoid people figuring it out in the sports books being like, oh, it's just a weird week. It's someone making the sports book lose a lot of money.
Yeah. But overall, though, I enjoy it. I think we have already kind of covered that. But, like, I am a fan of it. what I am
we
worried
sit
about,
through the regular season to get to enjoy playoff basketball.
Yeah.
So if every game is officiated and feels kind of like playoff basketball, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm content.
I enjoy that too. I don't know why it ever got changed or different, but the people that it hurts though is, some smaller guards like Trae Young, Jalen Brunson a little bit, not quite as much, but basically just the guards who like they rely on like the little bump fouls being called. Like those are basically out. And those were the types of people getting those calls for the most part. But Trae Young's injured right now, so he hasn't even been playing. But I saw a list out there that was showing like who's dropped in free throw rate the most, and almost all of them are like pretty small guards. So that'll be interesting to see how that changes the game basically moving forward. And also apparently defensive 3 in the key is being called over 40% less now. So that like what you talked about in a few episodes ago that you thought that they were going to get rid of defensive 3 in the key. Like apparently they just decided to without actually even getting rid of it. They're just not calling.
I think that like there being some uniform rule that basketball is followed across everywhere wouldn't be the worst.
Oh, yeah, the world.
Like having just like this is the basketball rules. Here they are, instead of like, well, if you're playing in Germany, the 3-point line is a foot further away. I know that's not the case, but instead of having all these weird little intricacies for each country, it just is, and it's not that big of a deal. But I'm still
most places use FIBA. I think America's the only.
NBA is the only one that doesn't use FIBA, I think.
Well, and America has like their in the grade school, like they have NCAA, they have NSAA for Nebraska. Like each state has their own thing. Like for the most part, most places they grow up even in youth. They use FIBA rules. I think other than like line distances, I would doubt that they would be doing that. But yeah, other than that, I think that's FIBA. They from a very young age in Europe, at least, they're playing by FIBA rules, which helps a lot, obviously. And I wouldn't mind adopting some of the FIBA rules. Like I actually kind of want as soon as the ball touches the rim, it's live rule. Because like there's some putbacks that it's like we're having to try to figure out whether or not it was like barely touching the imaginary cylinder, and it's like it was coming out. Like just why does it matter? It wasn't gonna go in.
And then what's the other FIBA rule the FIBA rule I don't want is their weird dribble rule.
Oh yeah.
That's like the only thing that I'm like, just leave this, don't do that.
Yeah. But I mean, that's their dribbling, like the traveling stuff is more similar to like college than the NBA is. But the NBA, I mean, FIBA and the NBA both have the Euro step, like the gather step. But I think in FIBA, what you're talking about is when a player takes off.
The ball has to hit first.
Yeah, the ball has to hit the ground before they can pick up their pivot foot. Whereas
I just think
here, it's when the ball leaves your hand.
Which I think just removes like the advantage that like the fastest first step in the West, Anthony Edwards, and guys like that were like, if you have to wait till the ball hits the ground, you're still fast, but it's like part of your thing is like you be assertive with your decision and you're fast. Yeah. It just would cut down on that. And
the main thing it gets rid of is like a lot of times in the NBA, a lot of quick twitch guards will use they'll do this misdirection thing where they'll go one direction, lean one direction first, and then go. And that's a big problem with it is when you push off to go that way, a lot of times you're leaving your pivot, you're bringing your pivot foot up to do that. And so then in that circumstance, you would have to wait for the ball to hit the ground. And NBA players just aren't used to that. So that's why it gets called like 10 times per game when NBA players are playing in FIBA. But in the NBA, that's a very common violation that's called a lot in the NBA too. Like, because a lot of players will do the shift like that before the ball even leaves their hand. But yeah, it gets even more common when the ball has to reach like all the way to the floor.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, that one I do see that for sure. But defensive 3 in the key, I don't know. I feel like that's just a part of the NBA, and I would rather have that than the old illegal defensive rules, like how you weren't allowed to play in certain types of zones before because Like what that was trying to get rid of was like somebody being able to just park themselves in the paint and not guard anybody because they're just defending the rim. And so then over time, we were like, wait, if all we're trying to get accomplished with this rule is not let somebody just camp out under the rim, let's just do a defensive 3 in the key, where if the player is not tagged up, like the ref does not deem that you are close enough to the person you're supposed to be guarding, or you're not close enough to an offensive player and you're off by yourself standing in the paint, you have 3 seconds to be there. Is basically all that is. But rules like that are very ambiguous because it's like, how close do you have to be to the offensive player? And so then refs can kind of tweak it and change it, you know?
And we've complained about refs. We're like a quarter of a ref podcast. The NBA doesn't need more ticky-tacky, play-it-by-ear guessing. What's the fancy word that the refs use? Like discernment.
That's could be a word. I don't know which word you're talking about.
Where it's like an opinion thing. They need less fouls where it's like
subjective.
You can see it this way. Yeah, subjective. You need less subjective fouls. The NFL added subjective fouls for some stupid reason. Or it's not fouls, it's flags, but whatever.
Yeah.
The NBA doesn't need those because that's when things just snowball down a direction of like the ref just having more impact than what is desired by most.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd agree. But anyways, I guess that will be a good transition into the Jonte Porter situation, which is something that you alluded to a little bit ago. So I haven't heard for sure, but is he actually not on the Raptors anymore?
Yes, I believe he was sent away from the NBA.
Well, I know that I think he was still signed though. He was under investigation, but I've heard that he apparently was cleared from the investigation.
Really?
That's what I thought I heard somebody say. But for those who don't know what we're talking about, so Jonte Porter, younger brother of Michael Porter Jr., who plays for the 905 Raptors. Well, he has a 2-way contract, so he was playing for the actual Toronto Raptors. So there was this random spike in DraftKings or FanDuel or some sports book where there's 2 games where all the unders on Jonte Porter's stats for the night, those lines were the biggest money makers of the night. Like somebody choosing the under. So it's like, I think it was like one individual account, like bet upwards of like $10,000 or something like that on like the under, Jonte Porter's under for points or something like that, you know, or threes made, or, you know, they might even parlayed all these things together. But
I think that's how they did it to make it that's how they made it work.
Yeah.
To make the most money. And the thing that's like weird is like if there was the one time, the big one was the threes.
Yeah.
Is the one that like where they cashed out and it was the biggest money maker of the night.
And I think,
but like if you
more than even just it was something like this entire season, it was like number 1 or number 2.
Yeah. But the thing that I've seen is like stats or whatever, and then there's like he needs to play to be eligible, and then once he gets within like 5 seconds of that eligible play, he'll like start like his eye is like the one that I've seen where like all of a sudden he's like, my eye kind of hurts.
Yeah, which
out
was
for the rest of the game.
He already had that injury before, so it was like a re-aggravation of the injury. And so this is kind of why I want to talk about this, because I haven't heard somebody talk about it from this perspective really. Most people that I hear talk about it like are acting as though all of this is fake, and it was him also that's doing this, like putting the money on the game. My theory, what comes to mind for me first is I feel like he must have like just, you know, I just imagine like this random person in his life, a random friend or somebody that's like really into sports gambling and kind of is like in this group text, like joking about, hey, my friend that's in the NBA, like, what if like, you know, making jokes about betting on certain things. Like, who do you think I should bet on for this, you know? And then Jonte Porter might be like, you know, I have this eye injury that I keep, you know, not playing a lot for. And either he comes up with it or the other guy comes up with it of like, well, what if I just play a little bit and then you can just bet on my unders because my eye hurts. I'm probably not going to play a lot. Just take the under on that. Basically he's like, just gives him this tip, you know, which is still illegal, by the way. It's still not, you can't do that. It's the same issue.
Yeah.
But people, I don't know if it's just straight up like he's conning everything and is like, all he's doing is just trying to suck. And
well, no, there's like videos, like people have done compilations, like a 3 goes in and he hits the over, and you see his face go like pale.
I saw that clip. I think that people were reading into that a little bit too much. I don't know if he looked like...
Who makes a 3 in the NBA and looks disappointed?
He didn't really look that... like, I've seen... The thing is, I just feel like these things stick out to us only because we know what we... Like, we know that there's a investigation, you know? Like,
that he's directly involved with.
But like I see plays like that all the time, and it doesn't stick out because there's not this other information. You know what I mean? It's just like there's some like the way he looked was like I don't know. It's hard to read the player's emotions sometimes. Where if he very well could have been like, oh dang, I wasn't trying to make that because he did bank it. He banked it in, so that made it look a little bit extra like he was not trying to make it. But I don't know if that put him over, did it?
I think that was one of the games that he was over.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure about that one. But anyways, it doesn't matter. But Jonte Porter, I think that he probably was like, he wants to be in the NBA. I don't think he's trying to not play well.
And I think that's what Michael Porter Jr. said something about that. To that extent of like...
He's been working his whole life to be here. I don't think he's just messing around with that. I mean, he's being dumb if he's doing even... if he's involved with this at all, he's being dumb for sure. But I don't think he was like consciously being like, oh, I'm gonna try to be bad to make money. You know what I mean? I think it was more of like these couple games where my eye hurts and my buddy is like, he's big into betting. I'm like, I'll probably not get 4 rebounds and 5 points tonight. You just bet my under.
Yeah, but does he have a buddy with millions of dollars casually? Maybe, I guess.
I don't think it's millions of dollars. I think he put $10,000. It was like a $10,000 bet on
into a bunch of parlays to make $1.7 million in one night.
Yeah, but that's not him putting $1 million. That's a big make because he's betting on a bunch of unlikely things to all happen. He's betting like 10K on that. That turns into when you parlay it, it turns into exponentially more. Like it's like a big, So if he comes away with $1.7 million, and that is a ginormous win and upgrade from what he came into the night with. It's not like he's a millionaire or like beforehand. Probably just has a normal amount of money. And I mean, especially if somebody's like that big into gambling and is like, he's like positive that he's gonna get this to hit or whatever.
You'd have to have so many. I don't know. To get to that much, that would be like 10. So it'd be 5 like kind of meh bets. Only gets you to $100 or $310,000.
But it was like every single under available for him.
Yeah.
And that's like...
Yeah, to get up to 1.2... This might have been what it was. It was the over-under if it was... The odds were plus 100.
Uh-huh.
You have to have 7 bets all hit to turn 10,000 into 1.27 million.
Oh, okay. That's kind of perfect. Yeah, it's probably that. So, like, that is, like, obviously... if doing that just normally, like that's why they're both, whoever's doing this is being stupid, because obviously that's not a bet somebody would normally make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like that's just
unless you're like a hater.
It's gonna
like I
stand
hate
out.
Joel Embiid, and so you just do like unders on everything every night, throw $10 in.
But betting 10K in just one game. And saying that
Jeff
he's gonna
Bezos, and that's his "I don't like you" money.
It's basically showing that I know that this guy's not going to play enough to do all of these things, which is like pretty bold. You know what I mean? That he's going to play enough to qualify, but he's not going to play enough to reach any of these.
Yeah.
So it's just
weird.
Very sketchy. But apparently he did have to leave the team for a short bit to be investigated, to like, the NBA was having an investigation into it. But yeah, I heard from
I was looking and I have not seen anything about him being cleared.
Yeah. I might have misheard. What it was on I think it might have been Ryan
Verno
Russillo
would talk about that. Oh, Russillo also would.
Yeah. I think he mentioned it. And it wasn't the original episode that he talked about it. It was, he kind of followed it up in passing later. Yeah, so I guess I don't know where that stands now.
I feel like if he was cleared, that would come up like immediately if you just looked up.
Yeah, that's true. For sure.
Jonte Porter cleared.
I doubt he has been. And I'm sure that that would be such a weird coincidence if at least he wasn't telling somebody about it. Like I said, I kind of feel like that's probably what it is. I doubt that he went through all of this stuff to make an extra account. Like, cause he's making millions of dollars, not millions, but he's making a lot of money right now.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really need to do that.
Or most likely loves, I guess.
But I just feel like that was like a random, like not random, but like a pretty common idea or theory that I feel like I just haven't heard anybody even mention. Like, everybody's talking about it as if he's doing it. But like, I feel like it's very likely that it's just like, you know, NBA players, they have friends. NBA and gambling in sports is just like way bigger now than it ever has been. It's on every sports podcast, like the ads for everything. Like, I'm sure that there's people probably talking about, you know, gambling and like texting him, and they're like, you know, my friend that's in the NBA, what's some things I can put some money on, you know, that type of thing. And I'm sure this happens more often than you would think, but probably I just think that people aren't quite as
stupid as if it is his buddy was.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't quite as audacious. Is that a word? I don't know. Audacity. So yeah,
don't have that. Yeah, I don't know what I know what you're trying to say, but I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah. Anyways, moving off of that, the last thing we will talk about before getting into the awards should be a quicker thing. That's just the Timberwolves sale, basically. So like this is just an interesting situation to me. Apparently,
and I don't think it's over.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not. It's going to court now. So because both sides are claiming different things. So Glenn Taylor, who's, you know, the current owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves,
and looked like he was trying to sell the team before the team turned out to be pretty good at basketball.
Yeah, so
like the ball got rolling when pre-Ant draft, or maybe even before the season that got them to pick that they were able to receive Anthony Edwards.
No, I believe this agreement originally happened in 2021. And so it was the season after Ant's rookie year. Well, I guess it would be after the rookie year was done of Ant. And I think that, I don't know if that was the 21 play. I think that was just a couple years ago, maybe the 22 playoffs, where there was those fans that were, you know, doing these protests for Glenn Taylor because, you know, he was like, he had some sort of involvement in killing a bunch of chickens and during the swine flu. Not swine flu. I'm an idiot. Avian flu.
Highly pathogenic avian influenza.
Yeah. The avian flu, where a lot of, not just his farm, but a lot of places where they're basically turning off they were doing something to where that it would like basically heat up the building that they were keeping all these like thousands of chickens in and just kill all of them in mass, which, you know, I think each and every person can have their own ethical take on that. I'm not here to do that. That's not what this podcast is about. But these people were very upset with Glenn Taylor for that. And so like they were protesting, wanting him to sell the team, wanting him to get rid of the team. And I think that must have been after he already had started this payment plan thing, which is an uncommon way for a ownership group to purchase a NBA team, is for it to not just be in this like one fell swoop transaction. It was like this multi-year payment plan that A-Rod and Mark Lowry were undertaking. Basically, they were going to be the new ownership group. And now Glenn Taylor is claiming that they are just going to remain as minority owners because they have paid, I think, most. I don't know if most,
decent amount of money.
A lot of the money that they were supposed to pay, they've paid a lot of it. But apparently, they didn't make, according to Glenn Taylor, they did not make this last deadline, the final deadline of the payment plan, which I think was like a $300 million payment, the last installment. And so they're claiming, A-Rod and Mark Lowry are claiming that Glenn Taylor just has, seller's remorse because now he sees, when we agreed to this in 2021,
things didn't look as up.
Yeah, like right now, NBA teams in general are a minimum of like $3 billion. This sale was $1.5 billion for them to buy the team, which is very, very low. And it gets even worse when you're looking at it like Minnesota is one of like the most has like one of the brightest futures of a lot of the teams you could buy right now. Minnesota, as far as the smaller market teams go, Minnesota is one of the more enticing ones.
Yeah.
And so it probably would go for at least like $3.5 to $4 billion probably if you were to sell it now. So it would be a big upgrade. And Glenn Taylor's saying, because he's probably just taking advantage of, because this is apparently have been rumors for a couple years now, that this is from Bill Simmons again, that he said that he had been hearing for a while now that like apparently they were struggling to make each deadline for these different payment installments.
Keisei Tominaga missed 3 shots the entirety of his 25 in the first round.
Wow.
Without an entire rack of money balls, he scored 24.
Wait, so how does the money ball work? Is there just one at the end of each?
So there's one money ball per thing.
Okay, so there's a total of 5 money balls.
I think. He scored 25 somehow. I don't know what is going on, but then he taunts because he's going through them pretty quick. Gets to the last rack, waits to shoot it so it's a buzzer beater 3, and turns around and looks at the crowd before it goes in.
Wow. So he has there's a potential of 30 points to be scored then, is the max you can
I believe
score.
so, and he scored 25.
Yeah. That's pretty insane.
I'm sorry, I just saw that and it made my heart swell with just joy because he's wearing the Husker jersey.
Yeah.
He's repping it.
Yeah.
Only way we're ever going to be at the Final Four. Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, no, that's very cool, honestly. I'm glad that you...
No, and what feels worse is the guy that was like on the other half because they're doing like head-to-heads in this first round scored 12. So he just murdered him. Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Hopefully he wins that, to be honest.
No. We will have a live reaction if he wins it. Because I've like since minimized the window.
Yeah.
Because he's done for this first round. But yeah.
I'm sure he's probably the favorite now after that. I would think. 25 is a good score in the NBA, and that's like a maximum of 40 that you can make.
He's just so awesome. I don't know how people hate him.
Who hates Keisei Tominaga?
Oh, it's like all the other... It's partially Nebraska fans' fault, because like Big Ten Twitter is like its own entity, and last year there was these memes, and it was like Keisei Tominaga's headshot with red eyes, and everyone, I was one of these people, would go under the official post of the score whenever somebody lost to Nebraska on their like men's basketball Twitter page, and would post the memes that said, "You just got Tominaga'd."
Okay. And so then he became a villain to them?
And then it really irritated other Big Ten fan bases.
Okay. All I've seen is like most I feel like basketball fans enjoy Keisei Tominaga.
Most people also, like national media, have never watched him play basketball because they've like, he never I was like, I think one of the things I specifically heard was, "Oh, I airballed that one, unlike Keisei Tominaga would." I'm like, you've never watched him play basketball.
Yeah.
Like 50% of his shots go in, but like a quarter of those misses are terrible shots that are air balls.
Yeah.
But a quarter of the makes are these magical, shouldn't go in, just rainbow 3-pointers. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Back to Glenn Taylor, my favorite person.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah,
I don't know what side we're supposed to be on for this guy.
What do you mean? What side we're supposed to be on?
Like, what's the good guy? Who's the good guy in this situation?
Oh, I mean, I would think A-Rod and Mark Lowry. Like,
you think so? Probably.
Like, what do you mean? Like, do you mean like just in general, or do you mean like for this specific, like who's in the right in this situation?
Yeah, because if they missed a payment,
yeah, which we don't know. They say
which
they
we
didn't.
don't know.
They say they didn't.
But in the
and he said,
but in the real world, if you miss a payment within like obviously if they missed a payment by like a day, if they even did, and then he's like, it's off, that's not realistic. But like your car gets repoed if you miss a payment as a normal person.
Yeah. Even if it's the final installment of the. Think about that. If like it's the final payment that you have to make to own your car fully.
I'm not sure. I don't think the repo man really cares.
Really? So you would still get it? I'm not sure. I'm just asking. But apparently that's.
I feel like if most people were that close, they wouldn't miss a payment. So that leads me to believe that they didn't miss the payment.
Yeah, but
you know,
who knows? Because Bill Simmons has been saying this entire time that he's known for like a year now that apparently they've struggled to make each deadline, and he's heard that they've been like trying to finagle and move a bunch of things around frantically the past several months to try to magically come up with $300 million for this final payment. These are all rumors, but that's what he has heard. So I don't know if they did miss this payment or not, or if they were close again, if they, by the skin of their teeth, paid it again. But now, Glenn Taylor's like, he was expecting them to not come up with it. And even though maybe if they didn't, or if they were off by like a day or something like that, he still is like, hey, I'm backing out because overall he doesn't want to sell the team anymore.
Because it's a bad business decision in hindsight.
Yeah, he either wants to sell it to somebody else, or he actually is like, oh, this is a good team now. I haven't had a good team this entire time I've owned this team. I've never been good. Like, I kind of want to see what this is like to be an owner of a good team. So who knows what's going to happen there, but it's going to be interesting for sure, and we will keep everyone updated. This is your source. It's me. I'm listening to other people's podcasts, getting information so I can tell it to you guys. That's how it works here. But it'll be that way until Jacob gets all of his connections in with all these different millionaires in different.
I've got Husker basketball ones.
You have oh yeah, it's true. Actually, yeah, you do from working.
Like I had a tweet, or not a tweet. I had a text. I'll read it. It says, this was before it was announced. Oh, I'm actually, don't say this actually. I thought this was news that's not a thing. Never mind. Cut that part out. I'll tell you it, but you gotta cut it out.
Okay.
So I'm one step away from Keisei. One step of separation from Keisei Tominaga.
Yeah.
Is it Kevin Bacon's rule of, anyway.
Yeah, everybody's like one step away from Kevin Bacon. I think is how it works.
That would actually be hilarious to just randomly cut and then be like, everybody's one step away from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Just randomly.
Honestly, I thought about this before. This is weird. I was just thinking, I'm one step away from like Jokic because I've talked to Isaiah Roby several times and I've had him on our podcast and he's guarded Nikola Jokic multiple times and got completely destroyed.
I'm 2 steps away from Tom Brady.
But like what I was saying was, I just realized, wait, I've met Nikola Jokic too. So
it's like knows.
Oh, you're saying you have to like know them?
No, that's like the way they do it.
Oh, okay. But like I've interacted physically with Nikola Jokic.
Yes, but if he saw you, he wouldn't be.
He would not recognize me. No. If Isaiah Roby saw me, yeah, he would recognize me for sure.
Because, somebody that went to Milford, where we went to high school, knew Vincent Valentine, Nebraska defensive lineman, who went and played for the Patriots when Tom Brady was there. So that's 3 steps away.
And we're back.
Yeah. I went down a rabbit hole. This is totally my fault. So you didn't hear. Unfortunately, it was the past like 5 to 10 minutes of conversation. We talked about Nebraska offensive linemen. We talked about people I know. And you might hear some of it. I guess they won't hear me doing this if they heard some of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we're back.
You're living in 2 different universes right now. You don't know which
hard.
one you'll exist in.
Well, hopefully, somehow both. Are we ready to jump into the awards already?
I think so. I don't think there's anything else to touch on before that. I mean, already we're an hour in now, but
yeah. Well, there's also like a hefty amount of fluff.
Yeah,
that'll be trimmed
But yeah, so I guess jumping into the awards, the most improved player I think is the best one to start with. Not the best one to start with necessarily, but I try to order this in terms of like the level of player that usually wins it. But actually, I feel like most improved player might jump or have leapfrogged sixth man of the year in that case now, because last like several seasons now, the person who wins most improved player is like a much better player than sixth man. You know? Whereas it used to be just like a guy who wasn't really a player, wasn't really a rotation piece, now is. Now it's, you know, more of a star becoming like a superstar or something like that. But I guess, so we're going to go through the trophy names for all these two, like we said. So this is the George.
Sorry. Before we jump in, the next round of the Keisei Tominaga went, and he held it again at the buzzer, and a buzzer beater to beat the guy. He scored 24, the guy hit 23, so he was down by a point. And then he sits there and just cashes again.
The money ball.
He is the greatest showman. He is Hugh Jackman from 2017.
I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of this on my Instagram feed now.
Or my Twitter feed, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't really look at Twitter that much, but I do when I go on there to post stuff, but that's about it. But yeah, so no, that's interesting though. So he's won the whole thing now? Is he done? He won it?
No, that's the semifinal.
This is like a very...
They do it weird. So they do 8 people, because there's a lot more schools to choose from, teams, whatever.
They do like that many for the NBA also though, so...
They do 8, and then you do a head-to-head on both sides of the court at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's sick.
Huh.
Because there's like that challenge aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because
you don't know
with like
a
20, you know you'd advance with a missing like 3 or 4, whatever he missed in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, like, and then Jameson battle Ohio State.
So it's like a
guy.
tournament then. It's like a bracket?
Yeah, it's like almost like a bracket, but I don't know how they seeded because that USC guy in the first round probably hates his life. And then Jameson Battle, who had a valiant 23 out of 30.
Mm.
Like, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Wow. But
I'm sorry. I just love him so much. I'm going to miss him. I might start crying. I want him to get an NBA look so bad. So stinking bad.
I don't think he will, but...
He won't because he's not good. But just everything he does is so... You don't see very many people play the game of basketball with just like childish, reckless joy.
Yeah.
Like Keisei Tominaga does.
Uh-huh. And when he's on, it's a beautiful thing. When he's not, he's like hurting the team in almost every way possible. But
yeah. Because defensively, he's like, he makes Trae Young look like one of the best defenders in NBA history.
And okay, this is something, I don't think we've talked about the Nebraska game, me and you. Us losing round 1, the takeaways. So that could be a little bit of a thing before we get into the rest of this, because I have some real thoughts on like, is this normal? Do we not try to hide Tominaga on defense at all? Because I didn't see any of that.
So no.
He was guarding the ball handler just as a primary, like as his norm. Like he didn't get switched on to him. Just like every time up the floor, he was guarding Wade Taylor, or whoever had the ball.
Yeah,
at the time.
which was dumb, and they kind of adjusted in the second half. But I also want to give you the caveat. Do you know what the 3-point shooting percentage of Texas A&M was going into that basketball game?
28%. Yeah, this is why I had thoughts.
And then they shot 45. Then they shot 45% during the Nebraska.
And that was after it didn't matter. They were shooting 60% when it mattered.
Yeah, like we also couldn't stop the dribble drive and made me want to put a gun in my mouth. Like it was so aggravating. We just got punked. Yeah, well, they are not a good shooting team. They ranked like 380th of like all in college basketball. They were like 380th in 3-point percentage this season. Yeah, and then they come out there and this Wade Taylor guy. He is good. He's NBA, not a good shooter. He shoots 32% on his career and this season from 3, and he made 6 of 6. He was 7 of 10, I think, at the end, but he made his first 6 threes, and every single one of them, it was like the same shot. It was like 4 or 5 feet behind the line, off the dribble, didn't touch anything other than the net.
It just was, and he didn't even react. It was like I was acting like this. I always do this, you know?
But he doesn't.
He does not at all.
Doesn't.
It was so confusing. It was like these shots that you could not really defend. It was like just he was throwing stuff up and it would not miss. And he was acting like this is just what I do.
No, I was in like so much pain. If the Nebraska women would have also lost their first round game, I would have been just an absolute wreck.
Yeah, like we started off the game pretty hot, but they were hot the whole game up until the very last few minutes where we made a kind of a pushback.
They out-physicaled us, and that like snowballed. We got punked.
And we missed, Josiah Alec missed like 3 layups.
We got rattled, and then I was hoping we'd go into the locker room and like get stuff figured out, and we just didn't.
Yeah. Because it started off where Tominaga was making like everything early, and then they were overplaying like the heck out of him. Like they would close out really high on his shooting shoulder because he's a left-handed player, right? Tominaga's left-handed?
Nope, he's right-handed.
Really? I'm pretty sure, isn't he lefty? Okay, regardless, they overplay his shooting hand, so they close out high on him, meaning he can drive with his offhand.
He is left-handed. I'm so dumb.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure he was left-handed, but so they close out really. So when he's on the right side, they're closing out on low. On the right side, it's high. But, or I don't know what order I said that in. But anyways, they're closing out him on this way where they're giving him a lane to the basket, you know. And so when he penetrates, he's got a guy on his hip, which brings another defender over, which creates an advantage. And it's usually like Josiah Alec in the dunker spot or somebody like that. Play after play, he would get the dish off from him, and they kept missing just wide open layups in those spots. It was like, what in the world is going on?
No, it felt like it's a curse.
Yeah, it was very frustrating.
They didn't look like the same basketball team that I'd watched all year.
Which I was not watching them all year, but from watching that game, I knew enough to know that, you know, Tominaga's a good shooter, and once he started making stuff, I could see very clearly they were overplaying him a lot. And he was penetrating really easily and it should have been something that was very easy to take advantage of, but it just didn't get taken advantage of because we weren't executing or like, you know, following through on it.
The other guy whiffed it, and Tominaga only needs 18 points to win the whole thing.
So now
he started off the first rack cold. He's cooking through the second rack. Only missed 1 ball. Hit the money ball. He only needs 8 points, and he has 3 racks. 8 points in 3 racks. 7 points in 3 racks. He's going to perfect the top of the key rack. No, he missed one of them. He has 2 racks to get 5 points. Come on. Come on, Casey. Come on, Casey, don't. Okay. 13. Almost banked one in, but he didn't. Money. He needs 3 points. He needs 1 point, and he has the whole final rack. It's tied. Casey Tominaga is your 2024 men's 3-point champion. And he's flexing.
Is this the first year that they've done this?
No, but it's...
Oh, it's not? Okay, I've never heard of this before, but...
He got it.
So that's cool. If it was the first one, that would be extra exciting, but it's the first one to me, at least.
Oh, he did, dude.
Yeah, so... Also, this is the other weird thing that I think... I'm sure this was a huge topic. I don't pay attention to, like, a lot of things, but... I'm sure this was talked about. I just noticed this like a while later while I was watching this game, the Nebraska game versus Texas A&M, correct? It's Texas A&M, right? Is who we faced. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because our athletic director.
That's what I was about to say. So I was watching the game, and I had heard that Trev Alberts left. I didn't know anything else. I see this graphic up on the screen that he's going to Texas A&M. And I was like, that's weird. We're playing them and he's going there? That's a really weird coincidence. And then later, when I was I wonder if the girls, how they did.
The women are playing. Yeah.
And I looked at the score of that, and I saw we were playing Texas A&M and that too. Does that normally happen?
No.
What is going on?
That is like the third time. No, I think it's the first time in the history of the men and women's brackets where the same schools played the same team in the first round.
And it just so happened that the school's athletic director also...
I don't think it was a coincidence. I think they saw that it would be close seating-wise, and they just did
They
because
wanted it?
It would be funny.
Oh, okay.
Because they thought seating-wise it would be funny.
And it would be dramatic. Yeah.
It'd be another storyline that they could throw in.
Yeah. Definitely, I feel like it probably was, yeah.
And if they wanted to have... And that... Not making excuses. That was like a... The thing that makes me mad is Nebraska was 1 seed short of playing in Omaha.
Oh, really? That would have been...
They would have been
I didn't know they even allowed that.
Oh, no, because it's not our home court.
Oh, so yeah, because it's a different city, so it doesn't really matter that much.
But I think they also set the hosts. But the host cities are known, and then the 1 seed or the 3 seed, or the 2 seed or the 1 seed, because they split the brackets into halves. Before they go to the first weekend, the 1 and 2 seeds get to be in the closest proximity host city to them.
Oh, okay.
So Iowa State was a 2 seed. So if we were the 7 seed, we would have been the 7 seed that got bumped to Omaha. But we were an 8 seed, so our closest proximity seed was having to go to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole thing.
But in women's, we were in Seattle, right? Or Portland?
Because women at Corvallis, Oregon. Because with the women's side, there's only 2 locations. It was Corvallis, Oregon, and somewhere south on the West Coast. Somewhere further south. Well, Corvallis, Oregon is pretty much Canada, so you can't really go... You can go more south. Or you can't go much more north.
Washington is a whole state above Oregon, but...
It's not that big of a state. It doesn't matter. No, but yeah. Anyway, that was a whole thing.
Yeah. But I guess now getting into the awards, most improved player. I don't know if you have. Yeah, I think you said that this is one of the ones that's not a runaway, right? Which it never really is. I feel like most improved player. It's almost always the one that has the most discussion to be had.
Yes.
Which is why it might be my favorite award, honestly, most improved.
Yes.
But it is the George Mikan Trophy. Can't forget to throw that in there. And so Alperen Şengün is somebody that I have not seen anyone really bring up. But he might be my number 1, to be honest. So that's something that's confused me today as I'm trying to get caught up on what other people are thinking on some of these awards.
Yeah.
Şengün is somebody that I was like right away coming into it before I looked at anything. I was like, who comes to mind first for me? And I'm like, Şengün. But I did not see him once. So what is that about?
Yeah.
Is it just the games played thing because he had a season-ending injury after 63 games played, which I'm pretty sure is like the definition of what their grace thing was. If you reach like 63 games, I think the example they gave was you reach 63 games and you have a season-ending injury. So he would be still eligible. But
I'm not sure on that. Like, I don't know why he's not. But the guy that I like, so what I did is I tried to avoid like the Vegas odds, and I like went through and looked at every roster and was like, wrote down names, like, okay, who's this? And the guy that I thought I was cooking. I thought that, because we talked about this guy before on the pod, and I was like, Kobe White.
Mm-hmm.
He has outperformed what I thought he deserved. I was shocked. I'm like, he's getting the same money as Heat legend Gabe Vincent, but then he's played so well, and he's like a legitimate big piece for that team, and he's playing like what his draft said he should have been as a top or a lottery pick. Like he's playing well.
Yeah, I think he was the 7th pick. I want to say. Yeah,
he's grown into his role a lot. So I was like, oh yeah, no, this is going to be a second in odds to win it.
Oh,
I thought that I was cooking some sort of according to BetMGM.
Wow.
The Tyrese Maxey's the top. Which, this is the discussion we've also had, is most improved, the player that made the number go the highest because of opportunity increase or because of improvement as a player increase.
Which I think Tyrese is a good candidate for sure. I was just surprised that he's like the number 1, I guess.
It's pretty close between him and Kobe White. Jalen Williams is 3rd.
Yeah,
and Jonathan Kuminga is 4th.
That was one that I also was like, he's one that came to mind for me, but he was one that I saw a lot of other people talking about as well. And somebody else that comes up for me that I haven't seen anybody talk about is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Just because, yes, he was really, really good last season, and statistically it's like pretty similar for the most part. But he, just from the standpoint of before this season started, you and I had him like on the fringe of the top 10. You know, like he was not in the top 10 like concretely at all. Like you kind of had, it felt like a reach from you that you were like, oh, I'm going to just give my last, my number 10 spot to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Because we had that like bunch of like 6 guys that we like felt good about.
Yeah.
And I threw Shai out there. Not because I was like, oh, he's for sure the top guy, but I was like,
he could be.
But I didn't think he would be third.
Yeah.
Or second.
A lot of people think he should be second. I've seen some people saying he should win MVP this year over Jokic. Obviously, I don't agree with that, but it's crazy that we're at that point.
Yes, but and we'll talk about this more when we get into MVP, because the MVP odds irritate me. They do.
The odds irritate you?
Yes, thoroughly irritate me.
I thought they would favor you. That's the one award that I've looked at the odds for. We'll get into it though, but yeah, SGA though, I thought of him as just like, it's a pretty big leap from going like, I had him at 14 coming into the year.
No, to going to a
like
maybe top 15 guy, like fringe top 15, to a
cemented
like
top
if
5.
Someone gives him the MVP vote and Jokic doesn't win unanimously, I'm not putting them in the wall of shame.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like, okay, not what I would have voted, but that's fine.
Yeah. Did you invent something new there, or did you mean to say corner of shame?
Corner of shame. Corner of shame.
I was a little confused, but
corner of shame.
Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander though, yeah, it's wild that it's just a big, like we saw Ja Morant kind of get that when he won the award. It was a similar situation where he went from like a budding young star, which I think Shai was more than that last season for sure. But it's just kind of like the even bigger step up, because Ja, I don't think, was up to the level that Shai is right now. When he,
I don't think Ja is still there.
Ja is definitely lower than he used to be, I feel like. But
I don't think Ja ever got to this level that
I agree. That
Shai's at,
which is pretty wild.
It's a testament to like Shai is like Sam Presti was cooking aggressively,
and he was traded for Paul George. Him and a bunch of other stuff. Mm-hmm. Picks and Gallo.
You probably thought that those draft picks would be like the gem of that trade. Nah, it's the guy that might win multiple MVPs in his career. Just straight up for Paul George. Don't you love to see it?
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of people high on SGA back then, but no, I don't think anybody saw an MVP candidate in his future.
Well, no, because what the NBA needs to pray for is that he doesn't figure out how to shoot the 3-ball.
Yeah.
Like at not an insanely high clip, but like he's one of the guys who are like, oh, there's the weakness. I found it. It's the 3-point shooting percentage.
Yeah, for sure.
If he gets that figured out, there's problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, for sure. And like the Thunder as a whole, they went from the worst 3-point shooting team in the league to this year they were the best at one point. I don't know if they still are, but
it was best on low volume, wasn't it?
Yeah, they didn't have a super high volume, but they had the best percentage. But like before, they were like by far just either 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. They were the dead last team in 3-point percentage, and like they don't have that many different players now. It's like Jalen Williams, and
they were all young guys that developed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been interesting, but we already mentioned Jalen Williams is another one of these candidates. But Şengün to me though is like, but like last year it felt like, oh, Şengün, he might be. It's kind of cute that he's compared to Jokic sometimes, but it's not like he's really going to be that great. Like this season, immediately at the start of it, the way he was dominating, it was like this guy legitimately is like on a Nikola Jokic trajectory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like that storyline combined with the statistical case and he should be eligible games played wise. So I think that, I don't know, I feel like Şengün is a really good candidate for this award.
So I think the reason that Vegas isn't touching it because they don't know if he'll get like the waiver to be eligible.
Yeah. I feel like back when we read the
because that hasn't been well, yeah, we read the rules and that was like a hypothetical thing.
But that was the literal example they gave was like in cases of you play 63 games and you have a season-ending injury, that grace would be allowed to that situation, and that is the exact situation we're in now.
But I also get from like this is just the odd side. I agree with you that like he went from like what mid-teens points per game to low 20s. Like he exploded.
Yeah.
And then that's just the point side of things. He's turned into like an offensive engine.
And also don't forget that it's on a much better basketball team. You know.
He improved his play, which raised the floor raised everyone around them also the same way that Jokic does to a lesser extent.
Yeah, but like he's putting up better numbers on a better team. You know, it's just like a.
But I wonder if that's part of the why is the question marks of like we need the NBA to like officially be like, yeah, you're good.
I would think it'll
be like
has
a year.
To be it. Yeah, I would think because I don't know why else he wouldn't be included.
And then I also wonder if there like wasn't a better like example. If it was like a year where there wasn't anybody that really stood out, maybe. I don't know. I think it'll matter. We'll see how it comes as we round in the last 10 days of the season, something like that.
Yeah.
Just over a week left in the season. So
I think the last Nuggets game is on the 14th. Yeah, so exactly 10 days from now.
I think that there will be a lot of things that'll be figured out then, obviously, but I don't know. It is weird because I do remember that they had like caveats for like season ending or like if you ended up with 62 games, but then in like 3 of the games that didn't count, you like played for like 10 minutes instead of the 19 you needed or whatever it was. Like they would count
20,
those.
Yeah. Pretty
much so like I think it was supposed to safeguard so coaches could be like, let's get you on the bench so I don't got to pay you like you're an all-star type of like avoidance maneuvers.
Yeah.
Was to try to deter those or make those not possible. A player defense mechanism of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess as far as the most improved player, though, who like did you say who would your number one pick?
Mine's Kobe White. That's the one that I saw and it popped out and I was like, I think that because I'm also always lean on the guy that looks like they've improved as a basketball player as opposed to just their situation improving.
But I feel like that's a huge part of his thing, though. Like
Kobe White.
Yeah, like I feel like
I feel like he doesn't make the same number of mistakes. Like I feel like
I'm sure I agree that he's better, but I think a big part of his improvement has been now he's like actually he has the opportunity to play. Before he was kind of put into the back of the rotation, you know. Like his minutes went down every single season. Last year was his career low in like minutes. And then now all of a sudden it's at its high.
For me, it just feels like he's like a guy that was like not really on the radar and then all of a sudden is like a decent piece on a team. But like Maxey, like you knew it was because he did this already. When Harden was all weird at the end of the year, he did what he's doing now and he just had to do it again with Embiid out. You know what I mean?
I mean, we saw flashes. I feel like Tyrese Maxey got to another like this year was like
I don't think it's enough to another level to like outweigh the. I feel like Tyrese Maxey had it already. He just was given the situations to just like go do it.
I feel like he had a lot of stretches though where he did have all of the freedom you could. That's why I feel like when the best type of players like on a team, like when you go from a star to like an even higher level of a star than anybody was expecting, I feel like that's the best case for like this award because that filters out. That's like the most independent of like other things of like your situation changing because we already see you with the green light, like with all the freedom in the world. You know, he has a stars level freedom of being able to take all the shots he wants and do all the things he wants. He had that already. Yeah. And now he has that still, but he's playing way better. Like he's gone up a level. Like he's way more efficient. He's like more of a winning player. Like, and he's rising to the occasion over and over again, you know, more so than he was before. And like, that's just like pure improvement. You know, it's not really a situation changing other than like Harden isn't there anymore, but like Embiid
hasn't played like all year.
Well, but I would say Maxi's case was even better before Embiid went out.
Yeah, because he's played worse since Embiid has been gone.
Yeah, it's been harder. Like he's been less efficient and everything. But Tyrese Maxey's, I think, might have been the winner of this award pre Embiid.
His usage rate went up 4%. Sorry.
Yeah, which makes sense. But
yeah, and that's not as much as I thought it would have been.
What's it at now? It might be like a league high.
27.2.
That's what it's at right now?
That's what it says on NBA.com.
Meaning like what it's at for the season as a whole?
This season as a whole is 27.2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes some sense, I guess. I would have guessed it would have been higher, but I guess Embiid was probably eating up a lot of it before. But yeah, so I guess my pick would be Şengün, I think, honestly. But I like any of those, honestly. Kuminga's a really good candidate. I don't love Jalen Williams. I think Jalen Williams is a good candidate, but I don't like him as much as these other guys because he is a second-year player, and it just feels like a little bit more of a natural progression. And yeah, so I guess, but like Kobe White, I also do really like. I think that's a good pick as well. But for my final lock it down pick, I'm going to go with Şengün.
I'm going to go with Kobe White.
Sounds good. But yeah, on to Sixth Man of the Year, the John Havlicek Trophy. This is one that I heard you say that you don't think that this is a close, or you do think it's a close one. It's not like a runaway.
I think it should be. I don't know what the odd, like, I did my list and I was like, okay, what is it? And then I looked at the odds and it like.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any odds for this one, but I would assume Malik Monk would be I think to me, he's kind of feels like not as clear as like the Tyler Hero one was a couple years ago or last year. But Malik Monk, to me, I feel like, I would guess Bobby Portis would be another guy.
He's fourth.
He's fourth in odds. Norm Powell.
And this one's just third. And then the guy that I immediately thought of is second.
Who would be second?
And this one's tough because his situation has changed to the point where right now you might not think of him as a sixth man.
Well,
because of an injury.
Is it Naz Reid?
Naz Reid.
Oh wow! So he was somebody. I thought of him as a candidate, but I'm surprised that he's like second, and he immediately came to your mind. That kind of surprised me a little.
I also like what OKC was last year is kind of what the T-Wolves are this year for me. Like I've definitely watched a lot more T-Wolves than like I thought I would. So like I've just seen Naz Reid just be like, there's been a drop off, but not that big. Like Naz Reid is just a really good basketball player.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's weird because he's like shifted as like a starter, kind of. Not kind of. He's a starter a lot of the time since Cats went down, but he plays like It's kind of a weird thing. Naz Reid was the first guy I thought of.
Is he? Is he a starter now? I thought that
he plays starter minutes. Is it Garza that starts? Do they have?
No, it's definitely not Garza. Garza's usually not. I don't know if he really plays usually, but
no. Since Cat's been out, Garza's been playing like a lot.
I don't know about a lot. He played a lot in the game against the Nuggets because all three of the centers were out, like Naz Reid, Gobert, and Cat. But I think Kyle Anderson is the guy who slid into the starting lineup as the 4. I think they just didn't.
He's averaging 10 minutes a game over the last 10, so not a ton.
Garza?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he had that one game he played a decent amount.
He played 22 minutes.
In the Nuggets game, yeah. But Kyle Anderson, I think is the guy who might have. I'm sure Naz Reid has started some games since Cat has gone out. I'm sure they haven't done the same thing every time. But I think in general, Kyle Anderson has been the guy that has slid into the starting lineup because they want to keep Naz Reid in. They want to keep that advantage that they have with Naz Reid coming off the bench. Because that's been a big thing for them is Naz Reid in the bench minutes against other team second units really lights it up. And Kyle Anderson is like the perfect plug. He's kind of like what Justin Holiday is for the Nuggets. Like a lot of times Justin Holiday isn't even really in the rotation for the Nuggets when we're fully healthy. Sometimes he is, but usually not. But then when we have like some injuries, Justin Holiday just randomly goes from not playing at all to being the starter. Because he's just like, he plays very, very well with the starting unit. And he's like he's just like a very plug and play,
glue,
mature
type of,
smart guy. I think Kyle Anderson is like that, obviously to a higher degree. He's more of like a playable rotation guy all the
starter.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah. But the odds are, I guess I could give him for the folks that care. Malik Monk is the favorite at -150. Naz Reid is the second at plus 150, so it's pretty close between those two. And then Norman Powell's a big drop-off, plus 800, and then Bobby Portis, plus 4,000.
Oh, wow. It's a big drop-off for Bobby. Bobby was like literally the second guy I thought of. But like those three were first. And Naz Reid, I don't even know who else I would think of outside of those four, though.
When I was looking through the rosters, I was like, I didn't. Nobody jumped out except for Malik Monk. I think was the one that even going into the season, everybody's like, that guy's going to be sixth man of the year, probably, maybe.
And he was one of the top finalists last year too. And yeah, I think this year was just different because Tyler Hero was like a kind of a juggernaut of a sixth man of the year candidate last year, so it was kind of unfair because he was like their second leading scorer, but he just was coming off the bench.
Yeah, it's like the Lou Will cheat code. Like it's just kind of the fact that it's not the Lou Williams Award, kind of crazy.
Honestly,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
but it's because this one's the Havlicek.
Yep, Hondo. So it's like because he was, but he played for a super stacked team, so he's an all-time player, but he's
just happened to be a sixth man.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that Malik Monk though is like I think he's a pretty clear favorite to me. Like when I say favorite, I guess I mean that I feel like he's kind of the far and away the winner to me. Mm-hmm. I guess I would probably put Norm Powell second.
Really?
Yeah, personally, just with I don't know, like the Clippers, they've kind of started to struggle down the rest of the season.
That's another thing that like gave me like pushed me towards the Naz Reid is like the sixth man minutes that he gives are like very valuable for a very, very good team. Yeah. It was like also part of like my brain, like the cooking of it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I guess all of these guys are on good teams, which would make sense. I feel like sixth man of the year usually is a guy on a really good team.
A guy on a good team that gives big minutes off the bench. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody I thought of very early on in the season, and I thought was definitely a candidate early on, was Reggie Jackson. Because earlier in the year, Reggie Jackson was like amazing. The second half of the year has been pretty rough. He hasn't been terrible, but he's played way better as a starter. Like when Jamal's been out and Reggie's playing in Jamal's place, he plays a lot better. I think obviously just playing with Jokic helps a lot.
Makes everybody look better.
Yeah. So, and he has obviously more opportunity to do that when Jamal's out. And then there was that one game against the Clippers when Jokic was out as well earlier in the season.
Didn't he have like 40?
He had 35 and 13. He had 35 points and 13 assists.
I remember when I saw the thing, I was like, is he on their G League team for some reason? Like, I didn't think that it was the Reggie Jackson scoring 35 points. Because, like, I was like, I don't know if Reggie Jackson got, like, dinged up and they had him do one tune-up G League game or something weird.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know.
Uh-huh.
35, no, that was not the case.
And 5, I believe. And then DeAndre Jordan had 21, 13, and 5. It was just like, they just destroyed the Clippers. That's going to be one of the
most fun games of the season.
It was, honestly.
Just the craziness of that.
My mouth was open. Like, my jaw was just dropped that entire game. I was like, what is going on?
It's 2011 and I'm watching the Clippers. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Where's Chris Paul? He's like wearing a Michael Porter Jr. costume. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think the best stat from that game was there were 6 successful lobs from Reggie Jackson to DeAndre Jordan in that game. They were just spamming pick and roll.
Hold Y on Xbox and double tap Y.
Mm-hmm.
Call the pick and then double tap. Anyway, do that with Rondo and Cousins in 2K14 probably?
On the Pelicans.
Yeah. R.I.P. Oh, Rondo. Not R.I.P. He did not pass away. He officially retired.
Oh, did
Rajon Rondo did.
I didn't know. A lot of
Celtics love for Rajon Rondo earlier this week.
Yeah. I bet. Is Cousins done too? I feel like I saw something about him recently. That sounds more vaguely familiar. But yeah, maybe not. But yeah, I guess we will take a break really quick and we will be right back. All right, and welcome back. I am wearing a different shirt. This is a different day now, actually. The break was a little longer than originally intended, but we're going to just get right back into this. We're now recording this on the morning of Friday, April 5th. So not much else has changed. The Nuggets lost last night at the very end against the Clippers. But that's really the only update for my life as far as basketball goes. Jacob, would you have any updates to give?
Keisei Tominaga, I guess.
Oh, yeah, the 3-point contest.
Won the 3-point. I'm sure that'll be included because I started yelling in the episode.
Yeah, I saw that he finished the contest, or maybe it wasn't a finish. It was at the end of one of his rounds, the one where he scored 25.
Yep.
He was on his last rack. He was like, because he's lefty, he was shooting behind the backboard.
Yeah, he did that in every round. It was wild.
Yeah. And then he waited. He had like 4 seconds left on the final ball, and he just waited until the very last second so he could shoot a buzzer beater, and then turned around before the ball even went in. That was pretty cold, honestly.
No, it's he's in the All-Star game also for D1. That's tonight.
They do an All-Star game? When did this all start? Was this like...
I feel like post-COVID, I feel like is when it turned into like a whole... They do it way better than the NBA does because the first round of the dunk contest...
There's a dunk contest?
That's been a thing for a long time.
I didn't know college did literally anything. This is all news to me. I have no idea where I've been or why I've not heard anything about this, but I did not know about that personally. Sure, like I'm pretty alone in that. I'm sure there's a lot of people, unless somebody's listening to this from a different country and only pays attention to the NBA. But personally, yeah, I didn't know that. But that's cool though that he's in the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
And is that like fan voted, or how did they select All-Stars?
I think they just randomly picked it, and he's like a showman entertaining.
He's
essentially like a Harlem Globetrotter. I don't really care that much because it's stupid and lame, but it gives me another excuse to watch Keisei Tominaga in a Nebraska jersey.
Yeah.
So I'm about it.
Yeah.
The dichotomy, not dichotomy, that's the wrong word. The philosophy on how they pick it, I have no idea. I just know that I gotta watch him win the 3-point contest and then beat the gal that won the women's 3-point contest.
Oh, they face each other?
Yep. And then also gets to be a very fun.
So it wasn't Caitlin Clark that won?
Yeah, it's been in 1989. She's not participating because she's in the Final Four.
Oh. So what did you say started in 1989?
The slam dunk and 3-point contests.
For college?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay.
For the slam dunk contest, any names that I recognize? Kenny Battle for Illinois was in the first slam dunk contest.
Well, that is news to me.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, so Caitlin Clark didn't participate. So how did the girl do in the round against Keisei?
It was close.
It was close? Because
it's shooting. It was pretty... I think Clark probably would have got him. But it's also like, it was very clearly like, when you're shooting... There's just rounds that aren't as good. That was his lowest scoring round. I think he only had 18 or maybe he hit that final goal ball for 20.
Oh.
But it was like 20-17 was the women. The women's score was 17 and he had 20.
Okay, yeah, so it was pretty close. Well, anyways, to get back into the episode, we have some rewards to finish up. We basically finished up 6th Man of the Year. I don't know if we gave our final picks though. Mine
was Naz Reid.
Oh, yours was Naz Reid? Okay. And so then mine is Malik Monk, the Sacramento Kings, for the John Havlicek Trophy. But moving off of that, that brings us to the Coach of the Year, which is the Red Auerbach Trophy. This one, I feel like there's a lot of candidates, but I still feel pretty good about who's number one, personally.
I have a not weird. There's like a big if. I have 2 people, and the if is like a very important part for me. So I guess you can say your person, and then I will say like, it's probably the same person that's currently my number one, but the big if question is the
thing as for me. In terms of what it's going to be like these last few games?
Yes. Like the seeding, how that ends up.
Oh, okay. So my number one was Mark Daignault.
That's also my one. If the Nuggets get the 1 seed. Not the Nuggets. If the Thunder pull off the 1 seed.
But only if that happens?
Because I think the Magic with what they have left, could end up the 2 seed in the East. And I don't think that should be like...
Wow.
They're 2 games back. If
really?
I
mean, you could be totally right. That's so surprising to think about. Yeah, they are in the 4 seed right now. That's weird.
The 4 seed, I think it's 2 games.
They are 2 games, exactly, back from the Bucks. That's kind of crazy.
And they play the Bucks twice. And that's why I'm like, if they beat the Bucks both times and end up the 2 seed,
that would be pretty wild.
I would believe in Jamal Mosley.
Yeah. That's not
to
a
be
bad pick.
Out of and I think I got to pull up my odds again.
I have him 3rd right now.
I'm pretty sure he was 3rd in odds, but okay. Like there's just enough of the season left with this one that if you win the West, if you're Dagnall or Finch, I think you win it. But if Jamal Mosley ends up the 2 seed in the East, I think that is like kind of insane to do that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. You not have any sort of. You think
to be like a barely play-in team last year, or not even a play-in team?
No, not even. They were
OKC was a play-in team last year.
Yeah. Magic were I think they only won like 25 games last year.
Yeah, but I just think that like going from that to
the 2 seed,
the 2 seed, like the only seed in the East that's up for debate or grabs. With like how the Celtics have already locked down the 1 seed, have just been ahead. I mean, it's a pretty high ceiling.
The highest seed that is up for grabs. I think mean, right?
That has been up for grabs pretty much all. Like it's been pretty well secured for the Celtics for a very healthy chunk of the season.
Yeah,
never guaranteed, but like and the fact that you get a chance at the 2 seed from not even being a playoff team last year, that is why I liked Mosley the most.
That's totally fair.
And that's why I had the big if. Because if OKC goes from barely a play-in team to the 1 seed, that's nuts.
But I mean, at the end of the day, what's really the difference between where they're at right now? I mean, they're a game back from the 1 seed right now. You know?
Yeah.
Is like the seed super important to you, I guess? Just like
I just kind of more what it means, but I get the team was just as good. It just was like also, my brain also like is overemphasizing the getting blown out by 35.
Oh.
To the Celtics like 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Like when like you're supposed to be like locked in edge of playoff mode, getting the like brakes beat off of you.
Yeah,
at home.
They've started to sputter a little bit down the stretch for sure. I think the Thunder have. So yeah, there's that. I definitely feel like this one could change, I guess. I'm surprised you haven't said anything about Joe Mazzulla.
No.
You don't like him as a candidate?
I don't not like him as a candidate. Like, I think he should be like a top 5. But I feel like a lot of our losses are because of him directly. Not calling timeouts properly. And I don't know if, like... This team is built insane. If Brad Stevens doesn't win Executive of the Year, burn the entire NBA to the ground. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he flipped Marcus Smart and Robert Williams III and then just a slew of bench guys and turned them into Drew Holiday and KP, which in, like, if they're on a different team with the years they're having, maybe all-stars.
Yeah.
With how well they're, like...
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, so... Is Mizzou like a top 5 coach because it's like the best team record-wise with... Yes.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it was like you handed a 16-year-old like a Ferrari. Yeah, he'll be pretty fast. I don't know.
I suppose. I get that. I guess I was just surprised because usually it's like a lot of like if there's not like a clear, oh, this team really overperformed, it's like just by default, it's like who has the best record. And it's like that's
I just think we have 2 of those. In the Thunder and the Magic. To me, there's like 2 teams that way overperformed.
I think you could also add the Timberwolves into that, though, too, with Chris Finch.
I feel like the Timberwolves are more on the trajectory than the other 2.
Really?
Like, the Thunder were like... in my brain, that's just what my brain thought. That they were like... You knew that Ant, after the year, was going to make some sort of a jump. You didn't know what it was going to look like. it just felt like everyone was going to like, and they looked better at the end of last year.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember you having more confidence in them preseason than I did because I was like, I just felt like there was no guarantee, they weren't going to have the same exact problems as last year. Because
I might have talked. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that last year it wasn't due to like injuries and things. It was like they could not come together in a way that really worked. And this year it was like, so how can we trust that that's going to happen? And for the most part, it definitely did. And so I think that them getting the first seed, like last year, them and the Thunder were facing each other in the play-in tournament. Mm-hmm. So like they were kind of in the same spot that the Thunder were. There were a few games up on them, but not a lot.
They didn't feel like they were the same like
caliber.
The T-Wolves felt like a low-end playoff team, and the Thunder felt like they were a play-in team. If that it felt like if there was like tiers. They were like one tier apart, but still on different tiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I also, as you kind of was like a lot higher on them coming into the season, because I feel like at the end of last year, things started to kind of work a little bit better for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brain just assumed that they would continue, and it kind of did. Or not, it just did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and so I think I wanted Finch to win last year. I need to go back and look.
I think we both picked Mike Brown. That was unanimous. Like you might have had Chris Finch for second.
Oh, you're right. I might have wrote down because Mike Brown was kind of
we both.
Yeah, I just think if the Magic. So it's kind of like a right in the fence, lame-o answer. But if the Magic beat the Bucks twice and end up the 2 seed, I think it should be Jamal Mosley,
That's
a guy that people didn't super like the hire at the beginning of the year, other than he'll be great for young players. But in terms of like the X's and O's half of the coaching, people weren't like super high on the hire. People can have whatever revisionist history they want. Obviously, not everybody was out on him, but it wasn't like, oh, that's a great one. That was not the sentiment that was felt. I don't remember.
I don't really remember much discourse about it either way. I mostly just remember that it was like, oh, that's the Mavs assistant that Luka wanted to be the Mavs head coach, but they hired Jason Kidd instead. And so then he went to the Magic. That's basically, I don't remember, I guess, much of a reaction. Also, I think he's been there for like almost, it's either 2 or 3 years now, Jamal Mosley. But I could be wrong, I guess. It's been at least 2 years, though. But I'm thinking it might be even 3 by
this 2021. Jeez Louise.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I think he took over from Steve Clifford, was the coach before him. Yeah. But definitely a guy that, it was much more of a rebuilding type of hire. And now that we're seeing that rebuild come into fruition, because the Magic are the 4 seed right now. It's just wild to look at. They have 45 wins, and there's still 6 games left.
And 2 of them are against the 2 seed. Yeah. You need to go and win those games, but if they do, that's like a huge swing.
Yeah. For sure.
Like the Bucks only potentially having home court advantage in the first round.
Yeah.
You don't like
falling to 4th behind the Cavs.
It's not saying that they will,
or third, because that would make sense. Both third would also be that because they would face the 2 seed second round.
Hypothetically, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the East I'm worried about because the 2 teams going to be coming out of the play-in are going to be like the Heat and the Sixers. So who knows what's going to happen? But like if Joel Embiid starts rolling and you just get that as a grenade as the 2 seed, no matter who you are, that's going to suck.
Yeah.
Even if they're not as good as like 100% Embiid, that's not what an 8 seed should be.
No, I
Even
agree.
if you get like 70% Joel Embiid, or the Heat, I don't know if I envision them having like another crazy weird explosion like last year, but like that's still not a team that like you want things to get gritty and ugly against because
not at all.
They like willingly want to pull you into the grit and ugly. That's like, please bring it to me. Bring me the ugly. That's what like gets them hard in the morning. So,
yeah.
Then the other one is, it's just interesting. Like 9 times out of 10, I would rather play the Pacers, which we could do a whole episode on why. I'm confusion. They've just like, I thought that like, I think I said it on the podcast. I thought adding Spicy P would just kind of like make them explode and blossom into like what the Magic are. And they're not that far behind that, but like the pace that I thought they would be on,
Yeah.
how I would feel about them is so much different.
Second half of the season was not too kind on them. I think it's mainly because, yes, they got
reffing that we talked about last night, maybe that had a bigger impact on the Pacers than you would have thought.
That could be part of it. I would think that probably it's the Halliburton piece is the big thing. Like how Siakam, they acquired him, but right when they got him, Halliburton had just gone down a couple weeks before that. And even when Halliburton came back, he was like not the same, and also was on a minutes restriction for like a month. Like he was like barely, like they were basically just getting him to play enough minutes every game to reach the 65 game mark. It was pretty obvious that was what they were doing. But so he just was not the same contributor. And he
was at the beginning.
Yeah, like at the beginning, he was like potentially, you could argue
top 5 MVP.
Yeah, you could argue a first team All NBA, but now he's like probably third team, I would say, and some people might not even put him All NBA. And I don't.
We should have done that.
What do you mean?
This episode's already going to be crazy long.
Well, we could still do All NBA, just not this episode.
Yeah, that's true. This is not the final episode of Hoop Theory. That's a great point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just a part of that I feel like why Indiana has skidded quite a bit. But yeah, I think Jamal Mosley, honestly, that's a good pick for Coach of the Year. My pick right now, I do agree with you that things can potentially change with how this last
how close everything is. I feel like it's not like a Mike Brown where it's like that team was supposed to be an early lottery pick and they are a legitimate playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year. This year, it doesn't feel like there's anybody that's that like, this is nuts. To me, that's what the Magic feel like.
Yeah, the Magic do feel pretty crazy. I'd say the Wolves and the Thunder this whole season have felt crazy to me because just right before the season, it was like, it was kind of nuts for me to think like, oh, could the Thunder be the 3 seed? Because like some people were talking about, like, what if the Thunder get the 3 seed this year? This was before any games were played. And I was like, that would be wild. I just thought they would be like a 5 to 6, 7 seed, probably somewhere in there. But they had control on the number 1 seed for a good portion of this year. So did the Wolves. Wolves breaking their franchise record in a number of weeks, holding the 1 seed this year by like a lot, I think, which is just wild. So my list, I just wrote out like names that came to mind. So I have 8 guys written down. But my number 1 is Daigneault. Number 2 is Chris Finch. Number 3 is Jamal Mosley. 4 is Joe Mazzulla. 5 is Tom Thibodeau. 6 is Ime Udoka. 7 is Rick Carlisle. And 8 is Michael Malone.
You were pretty, like, for the first 4, you were on the money for what Vegas says odds-wise.
Oh, really?
And then it's J.B. Bickerstaff at 5.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Ty Lue at 6, which I don't like.
Yeah, I don't love that one.
And then Rick Carlisle at 7, and I don't have anything past 7.
Okay. Nice. So, I guess I line up pretty well. Udoka's not in there?
Nope. I think if they didn't have that big skid, they might have been.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But
like with how hot they started and now they're just 500.
Yeah. But then they've had another really good stretch after Şengün went down.
The really bad stretch, that's true.
Yeah, and I think that whole team is just kind of like you really see the coaching impact, like the team taking that identity, of Ime Udoka.
It's a bunch of offensive guys that are just all of a sudden playing defense now, and you're like, this is not what all of you guys did last year at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so
or trying on the defensive end. I shouldn't say good defensively, but like
a lot more discipline.
Not a lot. Yes,
the Rockets
that is a great word.
I think they're a really good defensive team, though. Too. I think that's kind of their bread and that's what's made them a decent team this year. Is they're more their defense than offense.
But I think it's as a unit as opposed to individual guys being like good defenders. Mm-hmm. Like as a unit, they just play disciplined.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So. Yeah, and you took Jamal Mosley there, so that will be it for the Red Auerbach Trophy.
I will not be upset if Daigneault or Finch, like I'll get those. The flowers to Jamal Mosley is what my brain was like the first thing that popped into my head. And then when I was looking at like what games are left, I'm like, wait, the Magic could be a 2 seed? I have to bring this up. Like I have to like be like, there's a world where the Magic go on a tear at the end of the season, beat the Bucks twice, and end up a 2 seed.
Yeah. No, that definitely would make sense if they were to do that. I think he would be a very fine. I mean, I think he's a good candidate as it is, like right now.
Without it, yeah.
But yeah. So I guess moving on to the Rookie of the Year, the Wilt Chamberlain Trophy. I think this one is definitely pretty buttoned up and sealed.
Wemby exploded.
Yeah, Victor Wembanyama.
There was like 30, 35 games where like probably around that mark, Chet was like maybe in it. And then Wemby just like kind of kept getting more comfortable, which he started already looking comfortable, but then somehow he's gotten more comfortable and now he's averaging like 4 blocks a game.
Mm-hmm.
But like effortlessly because he's like 7'9".
And he doesn't even play 30 minutes a game.
It's so gross.
Yeah.
No, I have also you seen this weird discourse of like how can they people are already like Wemby needs to get out of San Antonio. And I'm like, let's not do that yet. Let's let them build around Wemby because this season is a weird thing. It's
an
weird.
Experiment, yeah. It's like a tune-up.
I hope that Popovich looks at it and he goes like, this isn't super working, and we already have a guy that can be like the best player on a maybe championship team. Like he's that insane already. So we should maybe not like try to build Draymond Green 2. And like it's just weird. That could also be a whole episode.
The Spurs, their building plan.
What should they do? What does their 5-year plan look like?
Yeah, that's true. Get more French players. They've been collecting those like it's their job. It kind of is. They're trying to keep their number one guy happy. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that I honestly, out of all the teams in the West, if you could pick one team to have like their future for the next 10 years, I think Spurs are probably number one.
Yeah. Spurs or Thunder, one of the two.
Yeah.
Because the Thunder also is all really young. Mm-hmm. And one of their guys got worse by like a lot, like Giddey, in terms of you won't have to pay him like you thought you probably were going to have to, like his trajectory looked.
Yeah.
So, no, but it's probably Spurs. Solely because of how insane Wemby is. And that is not a slight to legitimate MVP candidate, which we'll talk about later, Shea or Holmgren or any of the OKC guys. It's just Wemby's that nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even close.
Yeah.
It is... Oh, it's off the board. They won't let you bet on Rookie of the Year. It's done.
Because it's just that guaranteed. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because last week was Wemby minus 10,000. And the next was Chet plus 2,500.
Okay.
And then they just took it off the board, so you can't like dump a ton of money into it and make some money.
That makes sense.
Because it's like not even a thing anymore. It's over.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is pretty wild.
And this is so there was 2 weeks left in the season when this odds article I pulled up was like released. 2 weeks left, they just cut the Rookie of the Year race betting. You're like, it's done. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's probably happened before. I haven't paid like close attention.
I don't remember. Not since we've started like really paying attention.
Yeah.
There's always at least been like 2 guys, like maybe a favorite and like a sneaky, but like never to the point where they're like. Also, is Chet Holmgren a Rookie of the Year any other season?
I wouldn't say any, but a lot. I don't know if would he
like
win it last year against Paolo. I don't know. Paolo was pretty good.
It's pretty close.
That would have been very close.
It's not it's not like this gross runaway monstrosity that this is.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Dude, is this an all-time rookie season by anybody ever from Wemby? Like, where does it rank? Not is it? Obviously it is. Where does it rank? I'm just going to write these down as episode ideas.
I guess I don't know where it would rank exactly, but I would say there's definitely been some really good ones. Especially like a long time ago, like the trophy's namesake, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a lot of the big guys coming in, in that time period like were good.
The first 7-footers, not the first, but the first wave of that level and size of guy.
Yeah, and there's Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Michael Jordan. I think it's definitely better than LeBron's rookie year, but.
I think we could do like a healthy, like 20-minute segment on like that.
Yeah, honestly. So, but
like going down, doing our research before, and like digging into like where does it rank all-time rookie seasons.
Mm-hmm. But looking at who else is here as like candidates to fill out the ballot with, I think it's a pretty easy order for me, honestly. And since the all rookie teams are positionless, and have been, at least for my entire memory,
paying attention.
Yeah, so that's going to be new with the MVP this year. So when I give my top 5 MVP, that's basically it would be my first team All NBA. But this is going to be my first team All Rookie, and so I have Victor, obviously number 1. Number 2 is Chet Holmgren, and that's pretty definitive as well that he's second. But I'd say Brandon Miller, who I have as third, is probably closer to Chet than Chet is to Wemby.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I still think there's a pretty clear gap there. And then 4, I have Jaime Jaquez.
Yep.
And 5, I have Keontae George from the Utah Jazz. And so that was a pretty easy 5 for me, honestly.
Because the next guys like you'd think about, there's kind of I don't say a cliff, but like maybe if they would have benched Clay earlier, Podziemski might have been a little higher. Because I think he's played well with the minutes he's been given. But he also doesn't have the same amount of time as everyone else.
Yeah.
Not everyone else, but like I think that if they might have benched Clay in like October as opposed to October's when the season starts. I'm dumb. I was thinking like football. If they would have benched him in like
December.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to
like late January or early February.
Late January, early February.
Yeah.
That might have changed things, but I agree that is the 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think Podziemski would be a good other name to throw out there. Scoot Henderson kind of picked it up towards the end of the season, but I don't know how meaningful all of that was. Just play, he was just getting some more run on a really bad team that's not really trying to win.
If there wasn't like such a strong 5, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I don't want to say a strong 5. There's like a rock solid 4.
Yeah. And
then the 5th one is the one that can kind of move around.
Yeah, I could see that. Mm-hmm.
I feel like Jaquez down is like not a question.
Mm-hmm.
Jaquez up. So it'd be like the Keontae George spot is the only one that I think people might like shuffle around a little bit, but who knows? We'll see it when the season wraps up. But
yeah, no, for sure. So I think we're good on that one. And then moving on to the Clutch Player of the Year, which is an award that Jacob historically is not fond of.
I just feel like it's a weird, like, it's quantitative. I don't like it. It's just confusing to me. So I have no opinion on this. Like, I don't know. No, I just don't know who it would be. No one immediately came to my brain except for De'Aaron Fox, but he won it last year. I don't know if he's a contender this year.
Somewhat.
Like, Dame is another guy, but I don't know if he's done anything. Like, that's the clutch. Like, the big clutch moments I can think of are Kyrie Irving, but I don't think he's done that many of them. He just has had some crazy ones.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I understand why it's an award. Like, that's not where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. I get that fully. It's just that it's not Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. That's for darn sure. That's the only thing I know. Like, who are the people it might even be?
I think, so from what I've heard, I think DeMar DeRozan and Steph Curry are pretty big, talked about guys. And they would be very high for me also. I think DeMar DeRozan is, he might be leading the league in clutch stats, or like clutch points, which that's, a pretty big card to hold in this race. But, there's somebody like Nikola Jokic who hasn't played in as many clutch games, but when he does, he, outside of last night, for the most part, is able to, pull out the W, even if it's like a comeback type of game. Like, it's usually...
Yeah, that's like the Nuggets, like, quarter superpower or half superpower is they don't lose close games. That's like their thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll lose ugly, but they just don't lose close games.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say ugly, but
you
know what I meant by
sometimes we get so far out of it that, we can't make it back up. But there's other, like, almost every game, basically the whole game, like, I'm almost always like, we're still going to win this. You know what I mean? Like, I still have that confidence in almost every single game. And I think that confidence is just kind of earned because of what Jokic has been able to do repeatedly. where it's like so many games where, because he comes in around the 7 to 8, sometimes 9 if it's really ugly minute mark in the fourth quarter. And usually going into the fourth quarter, we're either down or it's around tied. And then those first few minutes of the fourth quarter, we fall behind quite a bit because it's non-Jokic minutes. And so then when Jokic comes back in, usually we're down by like double digits, something around that. And we almost always get right back into it and then either win the game or it's, ends up like it did last night, and a couple other games off the top of my head have, where it's just like the final, like the Kyrie Irving game winner with Dallas. It's a couple games where it's like it was right there. It just came down to like the final play. So I think that's a pretty good case, I would say. I'm not sure where other people are ranking Jokic in this award, but I feel like a lot of people just have the natural kind of tendency to not give it to somebody who's an MVP candidate for whatever reason, which I don't really like that. I feel like those, the criteria
that's part of their MVP like candidacy is being that guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, like it is when you do like, oh, how do they do in close games? But then there's an award for that. And if you're the best at it just because you're the best at everything all the time doesn't mean you get it. It just seems weird. Like, I agree with you that just seems weird.
Yeah, because even though he's the best player in general, I think he definitely levels up in the clutch. I think he gets even better in the clutch, which is a pretty big and important detail here. Also, SGA is another big candidate. Dame, he's kind of a perennial candidate, but Dame, like, obviously he's had like one of his career worst years this season, but the one piece that has still been there, like been a bright spot, I guess, for the Bucks and for Dame this year has been his clutch time play, the Dame time play, where he's kept them in games or pulled some close ones out. So I think that he would be in a top 5-ish range. But yeah, those are the guys that come to mind immediately. I feel like my winner would be between Jokic or DeRozan probably. And you said you have no horse in this race.
I don't have enough to know. Like, yeah. I don't even want to throw a name out there because I don't know.
Yeah.
DeRozan makes sense to me because they're never in blowout games unless they're losing. Like, they're in a lot of close games. So that's the only thing that maybe it's him. I didn't even find odds on it. I didn't even look that hard for him. So
yeah. And Steph has, I guess I kind of mentioned his name, but Steph has had a lot of like, really big fourth quarter shots, game winners, things like that. He's had some big moments also. So I think he would be up there as well. But yeah, moving on to an award that I think is, well, I guess I didn't even mention that's the Jerry West Trophy. I don't want to skip over that. But moving on to another award that I feel like might have the most compelling conversation. I think this is the closest race to me. Like, there's some different angles you can take on it.
Oh,
honestly, like I have decided on my number one, but I feel like I could convince myself of multiple people, like more than just two.
I don't think I could. Okay, anyway, who's your number one?
This is Defensive Player of the Year, by the way. The Hakeem Olajuwon Trophy. Which honestly kind of surprised when I was thinking about like writing these down. I was like, is the Defensive Player of the Year, is that Bill Russell? That's Bill Russell, right? But it also, he has his own trophy already, the Finals MVP. So it makes sense why they wouldn't give him another one.
Yeah.
But Hakeem's a very good namesake for that as well. And then, but yeah, my number one for Defensive Player of the Year, I think, is probably the most common pick, and that's Rudy Gobert.
Best defensive player on the best defensive team. Yeah.
For sure. And that's a lot of years that is like the winner of the award is that exact criteria. There's guys like Victor Wembanyama, who I have second, who's not on a good defensive team really. Is just like the sole, like, carrier. It's kind of like what Rudy Gobert was for Utah in the last few years.
For a long time.
Yeah. Last few years he was there where they weren't, they were still a good defense overall because they were a lot more organized. They didn't have, he was still like the soul of their defense, but they were a lot more organized, I feel like, than this Spurs team is. The Spurs team is basically just like chaos, and then Wemby is, a rookie out there just blocking,
the calm in the storm.
Yeah. He gets more than just like the blocks, him more than anybody else just makes people like go on a turnstile when they're going to the rim.
Yeah.
Like they just avoid shots at the rim when he's there. Like I'm sure you guys probably saw it wasn't a game winner, but it was a clutch 3. It was kind of a dagger 3 at the end of the Nuggets Spurs game, where Christian Brown was driving on a fast break. He was going up to the rim, and then Victor Wembanyama was trailing him right there, and so he just kept his head down and kept dribbling under the basket, and then passed it out to MPJ for a 3. And a lot of people, like Chris Marlowe on the Nuggets call, was like, "Oh no, he gave up the layup." But it's like that was most likely going to get blocked, and it's just that's the kind of effect that he has on people. Like I noticed watching that game that Jokic he was much less willing to play make. There was some cuts from like where Reggie Jackson had an angle on a guy, like where he just there's a passing window for Jokic to throw it over the guy to hit Reggie, and he would have had a wide open layup for the most part. Like Victor was guarding Jokic on Jokic's back, so he would have been not too far away. And I'm sure that's what was in Jokic's mind, because otherwise I've never seen Jokic pass up a play like that type of a sequence or that type of a pass. But just I think Victor was definitely in Jokic's mind a lot when he was playmaking, of like, I'm not going to dump it off to this guy here because he's going to get swatted. It was more so like Jokic scored 42 that game, and it was a lot of because like I think he knows how to score on Victor for the most part. He did get blocked by Wemby like multiple times, but he still is like he knows how to pump fake and get him in the air, and most of all, like the way to go into his chest with his shoulder and then do like his little hook thing. So like it pushes Wemby farther away from him because of how skinny he is, how movable he is, and just makes that shot contest much harder to do. Like a lot of people were saying that, not a lot of people. I saw some people in comments saying that Wemby has Jokic shook. I feel like those people were probably just watching the highlights of the blocks, because if you watch the game, it was definitely more so Wemby was shook by Jokic. He could not really stop him. They had a few blocks on him, like I said, but there was like, for the most, like Jokic shot 40.
He also just doesn't have help, so I would hope that Jokic could bully him in a one-on-one. You know what I mean? Like, realistically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he had 42 points on like 60% from the field. So I would not say that he was like deterred that insanely. But yeah, like that wasn't to knock Victor Wembanyama's Defensive Player of the Year case in any way. Obviously, that's the best player in the world. It's going to be hard to try to just lock him down by yourself. But I think Wemby has a very solid case for being number one, just because of when watching games, there's nobody that makes people just not this was Rudy Gobert's thing for a long time, his reputation for a long time. Wemby is even like more of a major factor in that way, that he just deters people from driving to the basket.
Yeah, but like, I think what's like makes me feel like it's Gobert, and I don't really think about it more, is the Spurs defense, despite how good Wemby is still not good.
Yeah.
They're just fine.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I don't know. And I like, it's not fair to be like, you have this like literally insurmountable mountain to climb with how bad the Spurs are defensively, and to blame it all, not blame it, but not like let his accolades shine, because my brain, I just think it's going to be Gobert. I don't know if it should be, but it's going to be Gobert in my brain. I don't know if that's right.
I think it will be, yeah. And I definitely, that's why, I lean him as well.
Is defense positionless also?
Defensive teams?
Yeah.
It might be now. It didn't used to be. But it used to be.
I thought that was the one that they might not have done, because then there would just like barely ever be guards.
That's true.
On there at all.
Yeah, I feel like it would have to be.
Because that's going to suck that Wemby's going to be all defensive second team, which is like a travesty.
Well, yeah, so that's what I was about to say. It's never been like all defensive team is not as positional as the all NBA used to be.
Is it just front and back?
Yeah, it's 2 front court, or it's 2 back court and 3 front court. So you could have 3 centers on the first team if you wanted.
So it'll probably be like Gobert. I know it's Gobert, just Gobert. Wemby, and then Anthony Davis, I feel like, is the third guy, because I feel like he's the only other one that like is not in the conversation, but he's like the other guy.
I think he's pretty in the conversation somewhat for me. I have him
I think
fourth.
it's Gobert. Who's third?
Herb Jones. You could slot him in as guard, I guess, but obviously I think he's more of a natural forward. But he plays a lot of two for them, just because of how their team is built. But yeah, I think Herb.
So then,
Jones
who's your guards? If we build a quick all NBA defense, first team NBA defense.
So
Gobert, Wemby.
Yep, I put Herb as a guard. I probably either have. So I have
Say it.
I have a what?
Who's your other guard? Say it right now. I want to hear you say his name.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about, and that was going to be my guy, Derek White.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
But I was thinking it was either him or Caruso, but I feel like I guess I haven't looked at Caruso's games played. I think he's not. I think he hasn't been quite as healthy, and might not even be eligible. I'm not sure. But Bam is the other. He's my fifth guy on my Defensive Player of the Year ballot. So I could be talked into Bam being in there over AD on the defensive team. There's Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, both of those guys. I think them being on the same team, kind of holds back both of their individual cases. But both of those guys are definitely in that range as well, to me at least. Draymond hasn't played enough games, but he's been a huge factor for the Warriors yet again on the defensive end. But did you want to take it away with Derek White? Did you have some things to say?
He's a point guard with 1.2 blocks a game and a steal a game.
Yeah.
And then just does everything else so correctly defensively that, like, we have Drew Holiday on our team, and I don't think Drew Holiday is our best defensive guard. Like, that's how, like, ascended Derek White has played on the defensive side this year. I love it.
Yeah. To be fair, Drew's in his twilight years, but
no, like that sentence just feels crazy.
Yeah. For sure.
And then the other thing is, like, there was a point in the season, like, he's like slowed down the blocks a little bit. He was on pace for 100 blocks as a guard.
100 blocks on the season?
On the season, he was on pace for 100, like around the 40. It was probably around the 41 game mark. He had 50 blocks. He was on pace for 100 blocks as a guard.
Wow.
He's at like 80 something now with a couple games to go.
Okay, so that would be pretty nuts if he got.
If he gets that, the world's over.
6 games left, right? Yeah, 6 games.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's possible, for sure. But that would be, he would have to get like 2 or 3 every game for sure.
No, he won't get to the 100, but like there was a point where he was legitimately on pace for 100 blocks. Like it was crazy.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I guess, yeah, would he be on your Defensive Player of the Year ballot? Because I think he would be close to my top 5.
I think I'm just trying to posture that I'm a Heat hater.
And not put
like,
Bam.
I'm like overcompensating Bam. I have almost supreme faith in AD.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
He might be 5. He's top 10 for me, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would
top 2 guard, if you count Herb Jones as a guard.
Which is kind of cheating, but yeah, I personally would not like to just put him I like to do it just because it works and it makes sense,
but not because it makes
he's not naturally or like really a guard. He can play guard. It's kind of like how Ben Simmons was put as a guard on all defensive teams, where it's like he's kind of a guard but not really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad that I knew I wasn't delusional, because sometimes I like over worry about being like too much of a homer about Celtic stuff. But oh man, good old Derek White deserves every little bit of defensive praise he gets, because he, like, that was the one. I knew that Derek White was like a good defender. I didn't think that he would be
this level,
replacing Marcus Smart entirely with almost no issues.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing we can't do, which I don't think we should have expected Marcus Smart to do, is go guard the center for a little bit.
But Drew can do that, so.
But Drew, it's Brad Stevens is executive is the year is a thing, right?
Yeah.
If it's not Brad Stevens, again, I'm going to burn the NBA's front office to the ground. I'll get everybody out of the building because I'm not like, obviously, and then I'll serve my time in jail for like arson, but
it'll be worth it.
No, it wouldn't. I won't do that because that would be wrong. This is all hypothetical.
Hypothetical. I wouldn't even call it that, but I would just say it's pure gesture or
pure satire, pure pure, what's the fancy word? That means sarcastic.
I think
facetious. Purely facetious speaking is what I'm doing. I would not burn any buildings to the ground unless it's a little gingerbread house in a burn pit. There you go. Anyway, I love Derek White, Buffalo Soldier. Big fan.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably the only Buffalo Soldier that you would say that about. I thought that you were a Buffs hater.
Oh, Jamal Mosley.
Did he go to Colorado?
I believe so.
Oh, all right.
But no, yeah, not a big fan.
Not as bad as Iowa, but
as a university, Colorado's way worse to me.
Really?
Yeah, the Buffs? Oh, burning. Yeah. Like, they talk about, like, in the 90s, you, like, couldn't drive in Nebraska.
So who's your worst? Who's the worst?
Creighton.
That's your least favorite, like, college team, like, sports.
My two children could say, I want to attend Creighton University, and I would say, I'm not helping you pay.
Wow, I don't understand that at all, but I root for Creighton when they're like, I mean, when Nebraska plays them, I cheer for Nebraska, but it's like I've never understood that. It's just like, why are they a rival? We don't really compete. We don't we're not like in competition with each other on almost anything ever. Like basketball, they're almost always the only relevant school. Now
football's the only sport that like they don't have. We compete in everything else. They just beat us in baseball like 2 nights ago.
Yeah, but like they're not even in our conference. It's not like a team that we're vying for, like, oh, we got to be better than Creighton this year. You know what I mean? It's like that's not really an important thing outside of you just care about it.
No, that's like a real thing.
But I'm just saying that the only
you need to be the best team in your state. Creighton gets to go play at Omaha for like the
as far
College
as
World Series, but Nebraska doesn't. As
far as your season success goes, Creighton doesn't have a large bear. It's not like a division rival in NBA or in
I think Nebraska Creighton. It's just tough because there's no football. But I'm pretty sure it's like this. Most people have the same level of like as like Iowa State or Kansas State.
Okay. But those guys are in the same. Well, I guess Iowa and Iowa State aren't in the same conference, but at least they're both Power 5. But
Creighton's like in
Power
the Big
6,
East, which is
I guess, yeah, for
which
basketball.
Is Big East is just doesn't have football, but they do, but not all of them have football. Anyway, and also I think the reason my disdain for Creighton is so great is the Creighton fans that only like men's basketball. If you like Nebraska sports at everything else, and you just don't like Nebraska men's basketball and like Creighton men's basketball, I don't like you. If the only Nebraska sport you like is football because Creighton doesn't have it, you're fine by me. That's the J-Screw. That's an acceptable. I'm cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't like bandwagon fans of anything ever. Like, it irritates me.
Yeah.
And that's just all they are. That's what all of the Creighton men's basketball only fans are. So if you're like, oh yeah, I hope Nebraska volleyball does well, but you want Nebraska men's basketball to lose, don't ever interact with me and tell me that piece of information.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that way. I'd like Nebraska to beat Creighton when we play them. But if Creighton is like in the like right now, like they're done now, but in this tournament, I was rooting for Creighton because it's like they're in the same city I live in, and it's like I identify with them being my local school.
Yeah, no, I will never have anything like that ever. Even if I move to Omaha and my next door neighbor is McDermott, there's no world. I will buy a preposterously large Nebraska flag and fly it as high as the city will let me. If I move next to McDermott.
To most Creighton fans, I don't feel like they would even see that as an insult because most Creighton fans also like Nebraska.
All right, you McDermott on it.
Okay, that would probably get his attention.
Just kidding. I like McDermott as a coach. I think he's a really damn good coach. It just irritates me that he's the Creighton coach. He's like really good. Like, I'm a big fan of him, but that color of blue just pisses me off too now.
That's like the color of blue that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Also, the thing that confuses me is I've seen this on Twitter since we're coping as Nebraska fans. Are like, well, they like show the side-by-side record of Nebraska versus Creighton and everything, and Nebraska wins everything that's not men's basketball. It's like the overall series records, or even going back 20 years, 10 years. But then for the reasoning for football, they write football and say Creighton's too poor to have a football team. I'm like, I think you're confused on who goes to Creighton.
Yeah, that's a private school.
We're the poors. There's just more of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only difference. Like, they're not the poor ones.
The school as a whole, though, might be... I don't know if I don't know how this works exactly, but
it's a private school, so no.
Like, does that mean the school itself is... Because, like, there's private schools in Lincoln that are, like, dirt poor. Like, the people who go there aren't dirt poor because they have to have money to go there. It's not like a public school. But, like, just because the students pay them to go there doesn't mean that they have a lot of money because they don't get any government funding because they're not a public school.
Yeah, I have not a single idea what the financials of Creighton look like.
Yeah.
I just know they don't have a
student base. The student base has more money.
Is not a bunch of poors.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
Anyway, I like how I said I needed to have this episode be efficient, and then we're talking about the Creighton. It's fine.
Yeah, we got one more award to get through,
and it's the big one.
Yeah,
and I don't have any. There's no debate for me about who should win it for MVP.
Mm-hmm.
The Michael Jordan Award.
It is.
No, yes, it is the Michael Jordan Award.
Mm-hmm.
So Nikola Jokic should be winning his 4th consecutive, but will be winning his 3rd Michael Jordan trophy in 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
3 out of 4 is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But my qualms come with who people should put as second place on their ballot.
Okay. So I personally...
I know who you're going to say, and it irritates me. I shouldn't say that. I might not know who you're going to say, but...
Yeah, because...
The betting odds say a person, and it genuinely makes me mad.
Luka?
Yeah, that irritates me.
Oh, okay. So I'm leaning him as my number 2.
I want it to be Shea. My order is Jokic. And I think more what makes you mad about the odds is this is BetMGM, the odds I'm looking at. Luka's plus 550 and Shea is plus 2,000. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah, that does.
That's what I have qualms with. If it was like Luka 550, Shea plus 600, I'd be like, that's cool. Even plus 750 for Shea. Because Luka's been doing it for more years, and that, even though it's not supposed to, it plays into people's brains. I would, but the fact that they say it's pretty much a 2-horse race, and then there's no one else that even close to matters, irritates me.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it's a clear number 1, and then I think it's 3 guys that are all the same team. I could put in any order. Between Luka, Shea, and Giannis.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
I don't know why Giannis is so slept on this season. He's having
because he hasn't played that well. He's had
his best season. He's shooting like 65% from the field and he's scoring 30 points a game.
I think it's the when he doesn't play well it's like the timing.
I don't understand.
He is also he shrivels up in the clutch moments as well.
But he's always had that sort of issue. Not like, I don't know if I would say shrivels up, but he's not he's not like an ISO scorer. He's never been that. So like he's not gonna shine in those moments like ISO scorers do. But
mine is Jokic 1 aggressively, Shea with a close Luka at 3, 1 or 2 and 3 are close. Then a big jump down, and it's Giannis, and then Tatum, and then nobody really else.
Yeah, I think they're stopped.
And Tatum is 5. More just I want to say it.
No, I have Tatum at 5. That's who I have at 5. I think, but I think that there's a huge gap between Tatum and Giannis to me. That's the biggest gap there is in the top 5.
Oh.
Between Tatum.
Yeah, we're
and
just
Giannis.
gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Because Jaylen Brown has been the best player on the Celtics the past 6 weeks.
That is way too long, but
it's been it's been a while. It's been over a month.
Okay.
Over the last month for sure. I feel like Brown has been
the post All-Star month. Yes.
You would say that it's not has not continued.
Jalen has not continued to be that nuts.
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying he has not been bad, but he's not been like the absolute menace to everyone that he was right after the All-Star break.
Yeah, I guess in the Celtics games I've seen, he's been like closing a lot of them. He
was terrible in Atlanta, and I might still be mad about that.
Okay, that's fair. I do remember that game.
Like, it looked both of them. The two we lost to Atlanta. Also, this could be an episode. Guess what, everyone? Atlanta's better without Trae Young. I don't know why this is shocking to anyone. It always happens. It always will. Atlanta's better without Trae Young.
It's fair.
Period.
Yeah, they don't have to run the Trae system when he's not there.
No, to the point where they beat the Celtics twice in a row. Celtics had like a kind of off night, but the second night wasn't an off night. They beat him in overtime 123-122. DeJounte Murray just was like God. It was craziness.
He took like 45 shots.
But if you make that many of them, you know? I think
he was below 50%.
I didn't think he was. That's what I thought was so gross.
He scored 45 points. I think he had 45 points on like 44 shots or 45 shots or something like that. Which typically, when your shots are the same as your points, is like not great. It's not necessarily terrible in all cases, but
it was definitely below.
Yeah. How much?
I got to do the math in my head. 18 out of 44.
Oh yeah. Okay. So probably in the 30s, I'd guess, or low 40s, very low 40s.
I could just do it very quickly. 18 out of 44. 41%.
Yeah. Which isn't terrible, but it's not ideal, obviously. So I'm not trying to say he had a bad game by any means. But
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I guess, anyways, though, like Giannis would be. I feel like he's just had another Giannis level season, and for some reason, ever since he won his last MVP. People just don't really consider him as much as the other guys. Like, I feel like he's on the same level as Embiid and Jokic for the most part in each of the last several seasons. And this season, he's in that mix once again. I don't see why he should be excluded from this top group with Shea and Luka, personally. But that's just me. I do feel the best about Luka at second, though. The way I have it penciled down is Jokic 1, Luka second, Shea third, Giannis fourth, and Tatum fifth. So,
and that's what Vegas has too. Except Jason Tatum and Giannis had the same exact odds.
Oh,
so they have them like flipped in an order, but it's essentially they're the same because they have the same odds.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Luka has arguably had the best like just individual season. It's just
his team's just not great,
and it also his on and off numbers don't. Like suggest that like his team's struggling mightily without him either is another big detail.
His team doesn't like plummet to like barely a play-in team when he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jokic, if he's not playing, they are just bad at basketball.
It's ugly to watch. Yeah,
I don't want to say bad at basketball, but like fighting for their life to be a playoff team.
They would not be a playoff team. I would almost.
You don't think they'd be a play-in?
No. Without Jokic, I don't think so. I mean, they would there's no way. They would be.
Oh, the West is a monstrosity.
They'd be worse than the Rockets, like easily.
Yeah.
To me, personally. I mean.
Oh, and breaking news: Bronny James will be entering the NBA draft, but keeping his college eligibility.
Is that true? Wow, that's a surprise. Yeah. I just saw not that long ago that he was entering the transfer portal, but.
Well, you can do both. You do this thing where you enter the NBA draft while retaining your college eligibility, and you also enter the transfer.
You don't hire an agent? Is that the reason? Something like that?
You hire a specific list of agents.
Oh, okay.
You can hire an agent, but it's a specific one that like
is eligible for this.
Yes, they go through this whole thing where they don't broker deals for all they do is like pretty much a guy that's connected to NBA franchises to like get you in for like workouts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Keisei Tominaga did it last year.
Mm.
It's like a thing that people do.
Test the waters.
A really good AJ Store, which is like a bad version of a worse version of Anthony Edwards.
Where is he from?
Well, Wisconsin. He's also doing the same thing. I would imagine that he probably gets drafted this year.
Okay.
And will be a very like solid player, like as like a second option on an offense, maybe.
Wow. Okay. He's
Not
not projected to go super high, is he? I don't think I've ever heard that name. Yeah.
AJ Storr. A second option's wrong. Like
that would be like his ceiling, though. You'd think like that
yes,
could be like a
I think
upside.
No, because he has a lot of the same tools that Anthony Edwards has. Is just like a freak athlete with like pretty solid feel for the game, and yeah,
gotcha.
Similar archetype.
Yeah,
but not the same upside of Anthony Edwards being just like insanely good. I feel like Anthony Edwards is also like really good at like darts. And really good at bowling.
Yeah.
Like anything that he tries to do, he just kind of picks up.
Yeah, he's like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
which he's probably the illegitimate child of. Just kidding. I think Anthony Edwards knows his dad, I think. But.
Yeah. Anyways, on that note, we could wrap this one up. It'll probably be a pretty long one, but it'll be a good one, hopefully. So thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, follow the feed, rate the show on the podcast feed on Spotify is the word I was looking for. Do all that stuff. Check out the TikTok, watch the shorts. We're going to try to do a mailbag here pretty soon. We're going to get a email account set up for that, email address, and probably release a short requesting for some, emails to be given in to us, the mailbag to be, for you to submit your questions to, and we will do hopefully like if not just a money bag or a mailbag segment, we will do a full mailbag episode at one point to go through all of those, or most of them at least. I don't know how many we'll get, but almost to 5,000 still on TikTok also, so be looking out for that. We will be announcing once we get there who will be the winner, the lucky winner of the jersey of their choice. And yeah, so thank you guys for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we will talk to you guys next episode.
Peace.